Aitj, my fiancé, told me, "This is it. Take it or leave it." So I gave him the ring back and told him to get out of my house. My fiancé Tom, 37, and I, 28F, have been together 2 years. He moved into my house 6 months ago and proposed a month ago. I thought we were solid, but now I'm questioning everything. I inherited a fortune 3 years ago. It changed my life, but I live below my means. I work part-time as a teacher, travel, and have a non-profit in the works. I budget carefully so the money lasts. Only my dad and sister know the full amount. When Tom moved in, I paid everything except most groceries. He wanted us to eventually buy a bigger house together, so his dad could move in. I said no to living with in-laws, but suggested maybe a separate unit someday. He pushed back, but agreed. We needed to discuss finances first. Tom earns $10K month and has $100K saved. I have millions invested and about $40K month income from it. When I told him, he was shocked. He said, if I have so much, why not just buy the house and cover everything? I explained that just because I can doesn't mean I should. I proposed separate finances, a joint account for expenses, and splitting costs proportionally to income. I also told him I wanted a prenup. That's when things blew up. He argued we should be equal partners, meaning I buy the house in both our names even if he doesn't contribute. We fought about this for days. Eventually, he gave me an ultimatum. Final offer. You buy the house. We each own 50%. I'll sign the prenup. Take it or leave it. I asked if that meant breaking up if I said no. He hesitated but said yes. So I left it. I took off the ring, told him it was over, and that he needed to move out. He backtracked, saying he didn't really want to end things, just wanted me to agree. He accused me of throwing away our relationship for money. I told him he threw it away by demanding I fund our life and give him half of assets I work to protect. Now I'm wondering if I sabotaged my relationship. I love him, but I don't think it's fair to bankroll a grown man or accept ultimatums about my own money. Edit. When we first started dating, he understandably questioned how I managed my lifestyle on a teaching salary. I explained that I had a small inheritance, which allowed me to buy my house and have some savings to live on. I admit I may have been wrong to be vague, but at the time, we were just starting to date and I wasn't comfortable sharing all the details yet. My house is nice, but nothing extravagant. And during our relationship, we always split expenses. 50-50 dates, trips, everything. When he moved in, I offered to keep covering the utilities since I was already paying them, and he would handle groceries. Things were fine until after we got engaged. I pushed for us to discuss everything openly before marriage, and we agreed on most things about his father moving in. This isn't something he wants right away, but he says eventually his dad would move in so he can take care of him. I adore his father, but I personally don't want to live with in-laws. His solution was that we should buy another house together, so he would feel like it's our home instead of him living in my house. I understood that perspective, but the new house would also have to be larger if his dad were to move in, which I'm not comfortable with. About finances. Initially, when we discussed buying another house, the plan was to contribute together. But once we started looking at what we could afford, we had to lay our finances on the table. When he found out my net worth, everything shifted. He said that if we split 50-50, we couldn't afford a bigger house, and since I had the means, I should buy the house myself, but it would still be our house. I told him that whatever amount he contributes would equal his share of equity in the property. Maybe I was naive, but until this point, I never saw signs of him being a gold digger. He never pressured me to pay for things and always split expenses fairly. That's why this change has been such a shock right now. I'm locked in my bedroom and I told him he can sleep in the guest room tonight, but that he needs to move out tomorrow. We haven't spoken since. That's where things stand. Comments, commenter, 1, and TJ. He sabotaged the relationship by holding it hostage to guilt you into funding his lifestyle. Commenter 2, you said he makes $10,000 a month. Why isn't he paying more? Just because you have the money doesn't mean that you should be paying more of the bills. He was a gold digger and he is very upset that his shovel did not work. Commenter 3, no, you are NTA. I am actually very surprised at him. He makes enough money that he shouldn't have been so greedy for your money and your assets. In fact, his pride should have demanded that he pay his fair share. It sounds to me like you are better off without him. Stories number 2. My wife said something strange about her ex, and it's really getting to me. I'm 31M. She's 31F and my wife, and I have been married for 4 years. I will call her Abby. We love each other, have a great marriage, and are talking about having kids soon. I really don't have any complaints, but before Abby met me, she was with a guy, Brock, for 2 years. She said she was madly in love with him but had to leave him because he was verbally abusive. Shortly after she left Brock, she met me, and the rest is history. I thought it went without saying that Abby had forgotten about Brock. However, there have been some odd things that she has said about him that make me nervous, or even a little jealous. She once told me that Brock was so good-looking that she had a hard time making eye contact. This was in the context of a conversation about why she put up with his abuse for so long, and when I replayed what she said, she's never said that I was too good-looking to look at. It's almost like she said Brock was more attractive, and it hurt. I didn't bring this up though because she sometimes gets upset when I mention Brock. There's also been a few times where she mentioned something that Brock used to do, and she's have this wistful look on her face, almost like she was still enamored with him. This wasn't 100% clear though, and it didn't happen often. So I let it slide. I have told Abby in the past that I felt a little jealous because Brock seemed like a more attractive man than me, but she assured me that she didn't think of him that way and that she loved me. All this being said, my wife said something a bit odd about Brock 2 nights ago, and it's been messing with my head. We were sitting on the couch watching Netflix, and Abby had been drinking a bit. We somehow got on the subject of feet, and how we both thought feet were gross and didn't understand why some people liked feet. I held my bare foot up and said something like, "Can you imagine someone liking my feet? I have gross feet." Abby laughed and agreed that my feet were gross. This wasn't particularly hurtful. Her tone was playful. Then after a few seconds, Abby said, "The only person's feet I would ever consider attractive is Brock's feet. He had the most, beautiful feet." As you can imagine, this killed the conversation, but Abby didn't seem to notice. She was staring off into space. I just went back to watching TV the next morning. When we woke up, she acted like nothing happened. And maybe she really didn't remember because she was drunk, and it was an offhand remark. But it's been bugging me for the past couple of days. Not just because it was about Brock, but because my feet were ugly. Then said, his were beautiful. Maybe it's silly, but it made me feel really insecure and jealous. Abby has noticed that something is off about me. She asked earlier this morning if something is wrong. I denied it. But I don't think I can just forget about this. I'm thinking I will need to sit down with her and talk about the Brock situation. We are cooped up together for the next 2 weeks at least, so that makes things complicated. It's not like one of us can leave if the conversation goes sour. And I hope it doesn't come to that, but any advice on how to broach this subject? Should I broach it at all? Relevant comments. Commenter 1. So just throwing this out there, I'm a survivor of an emotionally abusive relationship too. And honestly, the highs when you are being abused are higher than the highs you get in a healthy relationship. Because you're on edge, your adrenaline is going nuts, and you're trauma bonding with the person who's hurting you. It's really, really easy to think that you've never been loved, or will never love someone like you love your abuser, because the adrenaline rush of the highs and lows is so powerful. The thing your wife might not realize yet is that those highs are part of the abuse. They're deceptive. They aren't crazy love or once-in-a-lifetime love. They're the way your brain is trying to protect itself from the trauma. Brock is probably okay looking. But when you're in survival mode and your whole sense of self-worth depends on this person, your brain decides he looks amazing. It's a trap. It's part of the abuse. My guess is your wife has a lot of unresolved trauma that's manifesting as wistfulness for those intense feelings. She needs a counselor who specializes in recovering from trauma, who can help her recognize those feelings as abuse, not love. Brock is probably not that hot. Don't worry about that, but your wife's brain thinks he is, because that's how her brain coped. She needs help to get past that. Commenter 2. Abby, I would really appreciate it if you would stop comparing me to Brock. If she asks what brought this up, tell her how the conversation made you feel. What she said, and explain to her that it's pretty obvious those comments would make you feel. Commenter 3. Exactly this. The best way is a simple non-extreme measure. Just express your feeling in a calm manner, pointing out the obvious so she can understand the point of view. Then move on. Don't be too judgmental. Then if she still compare you or mention to Brock, then it means she is immature and you'll see what's your next move. Commenter 4. I've dated men who were physically more attractive than my SO. I would never tell him that because it's irrelevant and potentially hurtful information I would hate if he talked about any of his exes the way your wife is talking about hers. You should bring this up to her and be straightforward about it. Reply. I know I'm not a very good-looking guy, I accept that. But it's still incredibly hurtful to be basically told that I'm not as attractive as an ex. Especially when it's the same ex over and over. I would never compare Abby to my exes. Though I make a mental effort not to compare her to past relationships. It's incredibly hurtful, honestly. Commenter 5. Each of my exes had positive qualities. Why would I bring them up to my wife? Commenter 6. At some point you will have to accept that you don't have good feet. Tell her to quit talking about Brock. Commenter 7. Tell her to shut the fuck up about Brock. You don't want to hear it. Maybe hold off on those kids for a bit too. If she's still got a thing for her ex, you should not have children. Reply, this is kind of my concern. I don't think she's fully let go of Brock. Update. My wife said something strange about her ex, and it's really getting to me. I'm 31M. She's 31 FTLDR. My wife occasionally talks about her ex as though she misses him. And then the other night she said he was the only guy she ever knew with beautiful feet. Yeah, weird. But also hurtful towards me and my nasty feet. So I actually tried to post this the very next morning, while replies to my first post were still streaming in, because I talked to Abby almost immediately and consider the issue largely settled. Automod deleted it, so I've had to wait a couple days. In hindsight, I'm glad I've had to wait because it gave me more time to consider the responses I received. First of all, I wanted to thank everyone who responded yesterday. Unfortunately, I did receive a bit of bizarre advice. A number of users called my wife an alpha widow. Still others told me to divorce her immediately because she must be cheating. Had a few users calling my wife a bitch. This was a sobering reminder that anonymous internet people don't understand the nuances of my marriage, and people tend to project their own insecurities onto other people's situations. So I'd advise anyone considering posting here, use discretion in what advice you take. Just to get ahead of some of the speculation, Brock has lived in South Korea. For 2 years, he is prohibited by a court order from contacting Abby, and I have open access to her DMs anyway. If she were cheating, I'd be the first to know. I also received some great advice about trauma bonding and recovering from abusive exes. These responses were the most helpful. All this said, here's what I posted about that night. I was sitting on the bed last night, just kind of brooding. When Abby came in, she sat on the bed next to me and looked at me. She must have known something was up because I haven't been myself these last few days, and our bedroom has been dead since the feet. Abby asked me if everything was okay. I gave her a weary smile and said, no, I suppose not. She frowned and asked if we could talk about it. I sighed heavily and was quiet for a few moments. Abby didn't look nervous or defensive. She looked genuinely concerned, so I figured she must not be aware of how hurtful her Brock comments have been, and I should just be honest. I started by asking if she was willing to be 100% honest with me. She said that she was. So then I asked if she's happy being married to me, and if she'd prefer being with someone else instead. She seemed a little taken aback by the question and said she would never dream of marrying someone else. My voice was shaking the whole time and Abby looked like she was ready to cry. Finally I lay everything out. I tell Abby that a few nights ago, we were talking about feet, and she had said that my feet were gross, but Brock's feet were beautiful. I said maybe it sounds really silly and dumb, but that comment made me feel really ugly and it broke my heart. She gasped and started crying at this point. I said there's been a few other times where she mentioned Brock and acted like she really missed him, because she sounded enamored when she talked about him. I said I think that Brock was probably a lot more attractive than me, and she would have preferred staying with him over me. Abby cried for a long time before she was able to say anything. It was probably only 2 minutes, but it felt like forever. She said she didn't realize that she was mentioning Brock that way and upsetting me so much. She said she couldn't imagine marrying anyone else but me. I said, even though I'm uglier than Brock? And she started crying again, like really bawling. After she pulled herself together again, she admitted that Brock was a very attractive man, and that she had been infatuated with him. It seemed extremely difficult for her to get those words out. But Brock had also been controlling and incredibly cruel. She never felt safe or at ease with him, but she did feel safe with me. She said she had married me, and wanted children with me, and that she had never even dreamed of marrying Brock, let alone having kids with him. Then we talked about some deeper, more personal stuff that I'd rather not go into here. I did mention some of the trauma bonding stuff that some Redditors had mentioned last night, and Abby admitted that she had felt addicted to the drama while she was with Brock. She agreed to talk with her counselor about her unresolved issues with that past relationship. The conversation took well over an hour, and we both cried a lot, but I did feel much better afterwards. We cuddled for a while before I joked that I guess Abby was stuck with my nasty feet for life. She took my head in her hands and said she thought I had the most beautiful feet in the world, because they were mine. We made out and made love for the first time in a week. Maybe that's TMI, but I figured a lot of folks here would appreciate a happy ending. So I guess the issue is largely settled. I do think that maybe I overreacted a little, but my feelings at being inadvertently made to feel less attractive were real. I'm glad I didn't second-guess my emotions and suppress them. Thanking you to everyone who offered advice in the original thread. It seems the situation has been resolved. Edit, though I will add that I still feel a little sad that I am not as attractive as Abby's ex. Not because I'm jealous, but because I want to be the best she's ever had in every way, including physically. But I guess I simply have to make peace with the fact that I'm not the most attractive guy Abby has been with. I suppose a lot of us have to make peace with that, huh? Edit 2. I appreciate all your kind words. I would like to add that I do not consider the situation magically over, but I count it as resolved because Abby and I are both moving in the right direction and actively working on fixing this. I would also like to add that, even with this positive update, I am seeing some disappointing comments, users saying that I'm immature, that my wife is definitely totally cheating on me, that I am a troll making this whole thing up because my writing style isn't very good, that this sub is a terrible place to share a serious marital issue, and I shouldn't have done it, etc. I also a few interesting PMs trying to rope me into some kind of anti-woman community, and one instructing me to kill myself. I've read that Reddit can be toxic, but this has been eye-opening. I do want to post an update maybe a month down the road, but I do think in light of all this negativity, that maybe I will just leave things here. There is a lot that I did not post here. And I mean a lot. I guess it's understandable that some people are treating this as their blank canvas to project their own insecurities. Thank you to everyone who provided positive input and constructive criticism. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Holy smokes. This is such a great update. You both handled it really well. I'm glad nothing bad came of it. I hope that things will continue to go smoothly for you two for the rest of your days together. I think it's amazing that you both were able to tell each other what's wrong, express emotions, and make joke of it. Afterwards, etc. You don't need to be the best in every way for her, because in the end she is very happy with you, and she is choosing you over anyone else, despite any imperfections you got. And that's possibly the best. There already is. Reply, I am extremely lucky to have my wife. She is a very emotionally intelligent woman. Commenter 2. Just wanted to say, Brock's abusive behavior may very well have had a hand in convincing her he was ultimate and abusive ex of mine did this. And when I saw a picture of him years later, I physically shuddered at how unattached I was to him. It was surprising. You're a strong soul, and a beautiful one. You are more than enough for anyone to love and cherish. And it sounds like she's realized she may have dropped the ball on the cherishing part. Good for you for having the courage to share insecurities. And good on her for hearing you. Best of luck to you both. Friend. Commenter 3. Well, who cares about looks if you're the best in every other possible way? For me, my exes probably aren't the best looking to most. But I don't love someone for looks. But their looks definitely grow on me, and I see zero faults in how they look. Your personality will always be better than Brock's. Beautiful feet. Insert gag here. Commenter 4. I'm glad you didn't jump straight to divorce like Reddit often encourages. Commenter 5. Look, here's how I view it. I felt the same about my ex. He's definitely attractive, but I did have more attractive exes. When he would bring up his physical flaws, I would say it's like when a parent gets a kid's first art project, it may not be perfect, but when it comes from your kid, you'd rather have that over the Mona Lisa any day. It's the most beautiful piece of art in the world. People are like that too. Maybe you could go to therapy too. It's a bit toxic and an unrealistic expectation to be the best at everything in your wife's life. And that probably puts a lot of stress on her if she can't be honest or needs to feed your ego. Stories number 3. My husband waited until we were married, and I was pregnant to decide we aren't compatible. 29F and husband 29M have been together for 9 years, married 6 months, pregnant 55 months, with a honeymoon baby. Husband has now decided we're not compatible. I don't have the relationship with his family he wants me to have, and that overall he wants a divorce. He was quick to note, since I'm pregnant we can't get divorced until after the baby is born. I have given up my dream job, being near family and friends and being active in my nieces' and nephews' lives to be here with him. He says he loves me, but that he's not in love with me. Says he doesn't know if he was in love with me at our wedding earlier this year, or even last year when he proposed. I'm spiraling as my whole life is being dangled in front of my face. I want to move home and be with my support system. We also have other children in our home, no relation to us, whose lives would be drastically affected if they were moved right now. I feel an obligation to let them finish school here, before potentially uprooting them. This far into pregnancy, I'm also concerned with moving and finding a new doctor. This would mean getting a new job, new house, selling our home, uprooting the kids in our home, and completely starting over before I give birth in 3 months, which I don't feel is attainable this quickly. I want my marriage to work. Very much. I was very intentional about waiting until marriage to have a child of my own due to having divorced parents. We've gone to a few counseling sessions and I'm in individual counseling. I'm just so blindsided by this 9 years in, and in what should be the happiest time of my life. As newlyweds and newly pregnant with our first child, I want to fight for my marriage. At the same time, I also don't feel I should have to beg someone to love me and our unborn child, and put us first. He says he still loves me. Says he wants to copa rent. Still wants to, he intimate, but I have shut that down. He has made it out. Like he wants all the benefits of being together without being married or a full-time parent. I don't deserve this. My baby doesn't deserve this. But damn it, I want to fight for my family. But also don't want to beg for me and my child to be made a priority. This is the most vulnerable time of my life, and this has added unimaginable stress. I don't know what I want from this post. Maybe advice. Maybe similar stories with success and no success. My heart just aches. Comments. Commenter 1. You need to move now. Once the baby is born, he can legally stop you. Commenter 2. If you want to raise your child near your family, potentially get your dream job back, you need to move back now. Ideally, get him to say all of this in writing. But at a minimum, you need to move home now so you're settled, and have love and support when you have your child, and are living in a place you want to raise them. If he changes his mind, he can move to you this time. You absolutely need to be 100% selfish right now and take care of yourself. In order to be able to care for your child. Commenter 3. You need to think about you and your child now. He has told you very clearly, and no uncertain terms, what he wants, and you need to believe him. You need to leave now. Move back to your family and get that job back. If you can make a plan so that you and baby will be okay. You are a mother now. You have to think about what's best for you and your baby. Not what is gonna look best. What's best is having a stable mom and growing up in a happy home. Is that what your child will have if you stay with him? Is that what you will experience if you fight for your marriage the way you want to? What are you actually fighting for? Get a lawyer now. There's no reasons for you to wait until after the baby is born. That's just more manipulation he's using to get you to do what he wants you to do. You gave up your whole life for him and he waited until now because this is when he thinks you're the most vulnerable. Lawyer up and move to where you will have support when baby is here. Commenter 4. I don't think your marriage is salvageable long term. This is a betrayal of epic proportion. I would strongly suggest you move back to your family and have your baby there. Once you have a baby, at least in my state, you couldn't move without the other parent's agreement. So go get your support network and let your kid grow up with their cousins. Have the support from your parents and friends. Do not rely on a flaky guy if you can have your friends and family. Stories number 4. Aita for stepping down as a bridesmaid so close to my BFF's wedding, because bride didn't want me to be one in the first place. For context, my best friend Tom, 36M, and I, 34F, are really close. Our father were friends since their teens, and our mother were friends at college. His mom wanted a daughter, so when I was born she became my godmother. Tom is engaged to Anne. Their wedding is going to be in less than 2 weeks. Tom and I live in a different state from our parents, so most of the wedding party is Anne's friends and family. Tom wanted his brother, Jim, to be a groomsman, and asked me to be a bridesmaid with Jim. We're the only 2 people related to Tom in the wedding party. During dress shopping day, I noticed that all the other girls were very cold towards me. They would either ignore my attempts to initiate conversation or give very short answers. Every time I was with them, I tried to bound, but I was getting uncomfortable with the situation until Anne's cousin started to attend this events and interacted with me. My godmother came earlier to help Jim move out of Tom's apartment. He's been living there since he got a job here last year. They co-own the apartment, but he decided to sell his share and move out before the wedding. Anne wanted him to move sooner so they could remodel the apartment to be more her taste. This would spark a lot of arguments between them. Last week my godmother called me. She was very disappointed with my behavior and wanted to talk to me. She said she was expecting me in the bridal shower that afternoon, and I didn't show up. Just like in Anne's bachelorette party, I showed her my phone, and there was no invitation to go to either events, in which I had no idea they were happening, or when I told her about the cold shoulder I would get every time I was doing something with them. And it wouldn't surprise me they wanted to have a party without me to be more comfortable among themselves. It wouldn't bother me if they had not lied about me refusing to participate out of spite for Anne. She promised me she wasn't going to talk to either Anne nor Tom about it, because I did not want to create drama. On Monday, Tom called me asking, "What's going on?" His mother and Anne had a huge argument over the apartment renovation again, and after Anne saying something like, "It would have been done sooner if Jim had moved to a hotel sooner," my godmother blew up, which prompted Anne to admit she never wanted us in the bridal party. Tom was angry at me for not letting him know I was being treated badly. Before things got to that point, I told him I didn't want to add to his plate and create more arguments around the wedding, but since Anne never wanted me as bridesmaid, I'd step down. I knew Jim wanted to step down long ago because of the arguments around him moving. He didn't. For Tom, now Anne's friends are calling me an AH for stepping down so close to the wedding as revenge on Anne. They say I should just apologize Anne for all update. I don't want to go on the family trip my ex-BFF invited me on after he ghosted me. I just need an outside perspective on whether I'm being unfair or just honest. For context, Tom 38 and I 36F have known each other our whole lives. Our families have been close for decades, and his mom is also my godmother. He has 3 older brothers, and our parents are really close. Although our families still live in another state, Tom and I both moved away years ago. His brother Jim, 40, relocated to our state about 6 years ago for work, which brought us all even closer for a while. After Tom's wedding, Jim lived with us for a few months before buying a place in our building. My husband, 39M, and Jim had gotten close through work and shared interests, so having him around just felt natural. A lot of late-night gaming, too. Meanwhile, things with Tom started to shift. After wedding drama, his wife, Anne, set some boundaries when it came to me. I respected that, but it changed the dynamic between Tom and I. We went from being like siblings to something more distant and careful. For a while, we only really saw each other during family events, birthdays, holidays, or when our parents visited. Then came March of last year. Jim and my husband were coming back from a work trip with 2 co-workers when another driver tried to pass on a curve and hit them head-on. The driver of their car died instantly. My husband was in the front seat, Jim was behind him. All 3 survivors were rushed to the hospital. I met my husband at the ER. He was conscious but in pain. He kept telling me to check on Jim, that he was going to be okay. That was the last full thing he said. He died a few hours later during emergency surgery. After his surgery, Jim was taken to ICU. I stayed with him until my godmother arrived. I called Tom to let him know he never came. He only spoke to his mom. I was alone in that hospital for almost 2 days. The rest of that year is a blur. My in-laws and parents took turns staying with us. Jim pulled through, but it was months of rehab and panic attacks from survivor's guilt. Somewhere in the middle of it all, the three of us, me, my son and Jim, just held each other up. I stopped reaching out to Tom. He didn't reach out to me either. I understood giving his marriage space. But when everything happened and he still stayed away, it broke our friendship. Now, out of nowhere, Tom wants to reconnect. He's planning a family vacation with his brothers, their partners, and kids, and wants me and my son to join like old times. Everyone else is on board. I'm the only one hesitating because, honestly, I don't trust him. Tom wasn't there when I needed him most, and I'm not mad he chose his wife. I just wish he hadn't chosen silence too. He says this trip is an olive branch. He keeps insisting I go, or at least tell him why I don't want to. And the truth is, I haven't moved past what he didn't do. I don't want to start anything, but I also don't want to pretend none of it happened. And I don't know how to explain that without reopening something. I've worked really hard to survive. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. My entire life I have considered you like family. Like a brother. When our friendship strained your marriage, I respected that and stayed away. But I still thought you cared for me like family. Then my husband died, and you didn't reach out once. That is when it dawned on me that you don't care about me at all. So no, we won't be going on this trip because I don't have space for someone so hurtful in my life. Commenter 2. Just because Tom is willing to move on and reconcile doesn't mean you have to be in the same place. You lost your husband and were there for his brother and son without any support from him. That's not something you simply move past with a family vacation. An apology needs to come with acknowledgement of what he did wrong, atonement, and a promise to do better. Tom is just wanting to splash some cash and hope you forget his shitty behavior. Do what's right for you, and no, you don't owe him an explanation, just like you didn't get one. So sorry for your loss. Commenter 3. Best advice. Do the what you feels right and comfortable to you, and only you. Commenter 4. I'd simply advise him. Too little, too late. Please give my best to your parents, siblings, and their spouses. Then block him. There really is nothing to talk about. You lost your husband, for God's sake. You helped nurse his brother back to health, and he never, ever reached out. Not to you. Not to his own brother. Obviously, that former BFF died when he married. Keep it that way. Don't allow him the opportunity to clear his conscience. That's what this is all about. For if he gave a damn about you or his brother, he'd have been there for both of you. This isn't an olive branch. It's a save his face campaign. Commenter 5. Info. Why is Tom's wife suddenly okay with you being invited on the trip if y'all couldn't even be friends after he got married? I'm so sorry for your loss. OP. That said, you absolutely do not need to tell Tom why you won't go on the trip. Doesn't matter if he's bringing an entire olive tree. His behavior during and after the crisis is reprehensible. He could have at least sent a message instead of silence. You do what you need to do to protect your peace. That's the most important thing. You don't own him or anyone else. A reason why you're not going. Reply, as far as I know, it's been something my godparents and my parents have been trying to mend. I understand that both our families are close, and his brothers took turns helping us out during Jim's recovery, since I was in no position of driving him to doctor's appointments and all that. I'm close with all of them, so is my brother. The difference between Tom and I was our close age and shared interests that made us be glued together since childhood. Commenter 6. I'm sorry, but this is confusing. You are married, widowed. You lived with your husband, Tom, and his wife, plus Jim, for a time, in an apartment? Tom is a shit pseudo-brother to you, and a pretty shit brother to his actual brother. He appears to want you to forget all that and just be happy. He's gotten through his difficult time. You could suggest to Tom that you'll let him know when and if you're ready to forgive him for his grievous absence when you needed him. Reply, Tom and Jim had bought a place together, but when Tom proposed his fiancé wanted Jim out. It all blew up a couple weeks before their wedding. While Jim was in a hotel looking for a new place, my husband offered our place for him to crash. He had already received money for his share of the property to invest in a new one. So Jim lived with us for about 3 months until he moved out to his own place. Update: I don't want to go on the family trip. My ex-BFF invited me on after he ghosted me. I didn't think I'd be updating this quickly, but here we are. I took your comments into consideration, along with what's been coming up in grief counseling, and made some peace with parts of the situation. I don't hold Tom accountable for not supporting me. You can't demand support from someone who never really offered it. And Tom and I had already grown distant before my husband passed, but I can't pretend it didn't hurt. Tom went to the funeral, but after that, nothing. Not even a text to answer what a few asked. No, I'm not romantically involved with Jim. We've gotten close this past year. My son adores him, but I'm not ready to open my heart again, and Jim's never hinted at wanting more. Our therapist calls our relationship a limbo. Not quite something, but too close to be nothing. Especially now, with my son asking Jim to go to his Father's Day presentation because he does dad things and now he doesn't have a dad. So yeah, it's weird. Confusing as hell with a small kid in the mix now. For the update, I decided to call everyone individually. My parents, godparents, each of Tom's siblings, including Jim. They were all understanding. They suggested a small trip for my birthday without Tom, which I agreed to. They're right, I do need some normalcy, but that doesn't mean pretending nothing happened. I left Tom for last. I was honest with him. He got frustrated that I wasn't willing to just let it go. He said he hates hospitals. He was scared for his brother and froze after some time. He just didn't know how to make amends and asked me to not make him the villain. I kept thinking that while he froze, I had news that Jim might never wake up by a doctor, and less than an hour I was making calls to let my in-laws know that their son was gone. I took care of the funeral because I could not ask my MIL to do it. She was doing her best with my son at home while also grieving the loss of her son. My parents and godparents took the first flight available, but still it was only on the next day. I let Tom know that it is unfair of him to compare his fears to what I had to endure alone. Those first 48 hours. He understood we're never going back to what we were. He still organized the original trip with his siblings, but he knows I won't be there. I'm not ready to talk to him again beyond this. Hopefully my birthday trip will be a good start to moving forward, and that Tom will respect the space I need without pushing. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. What confuses me, and maybe I missed it somehow, is why is Tom's wife suddenly okay with OP going on a trip with Tom? It seems like she would be even more insecure now that she is a widow, and technically single, even though I fully understand you wouldn't be interested no matter what. Was Tom not going to tell her about the trip, and let her lose her mind on a grieving woman when she found out? Or did she know and have intentions of being hurtful to her on the trip? Reply: I truly have no idea if Anne was okay or not about me going on a trip. We don't talk since their wedding. I never really tried to make any amends with her. After cutting Tom too, I realized that sometimes a rift is a good thing. Commenter 2. If he wants to just let it go, then he can start by making a proper apology. The very least he could have done was send you a text. He cannot let his own fears and wife's boundaries be an excuse for his behavior when the rest of his family was still able to reach out and be there for you. Not to mention that you helped take care of his brother. I'm quite curious to know where his wife stands with this trip he planned, knowing you had been invited. Reply: being honest, I really don't know if Anne was okay or not. We don't talk since their wedding. I remember remarks from while I was in the wedding party. Her friends were always saying it was weird that he lived with his brother and were still close to his childhood friends. We come from different backgrounds. Our family is Italian. Our grandparents were Italian. We don't get married and to leave the family but to make it grow. My husband was also from an Italian household, so for him it made as much sense as it did to me. He was very close to all his cousins, and even after his death I am still close with his family. Just yesterday I was in his cousin's daughter baptism. Not out of politeness, but because I'm still family. Anne's family is different. You get married and only special holidays or events are family, but nuclear always come first. I don't know if this makes sense to you guys. Stories number 5. Aita for letting my boyfriend miss his flight and going on vacation without him? My boyfriend is always cutting it way too close with time, and I'm the total opposite. He'd rather be sitting at the gate early with nothing to do than stressing. We had an early flight last weekend, 8:00 a.m. I wanted to leave our place by 5:30, but he wasn't ready until after 6. We didn't actually get through security until close to 7:30, and boarding had already started. As soon as we were out of security, I told him, "We need to go straight to the gate. They're boarding now." He said he was starving and wanted to grab food. I told him he could just buy food on the plane. It wasn't worth risking the flight. He insisted he needed to eat now, not later, and got in line anyway. I didn't want to argue and told him that he'll miss the flight if he doesn't come with me. He said it was fine, so I went straight to the gate. They were on final boarding, and I barely made it on. He showed up a few minutes later, but they had already closed the doors and wouldn't let him on. Now I've landed at our destination, and he's still stuck at the airport waiting for the next available flight. He's furious, telling me I abandoned him and should have stayed back, or at least pushed him harder to come with me. I told him I'm not his babysitter and he made his choice, and I warned him exactly what would happen. ATA for going alone. Comments. Commenter 1, NTA. I'm reading this at the airport RN and could not imagine getting in line for food with 30 mins left. My flight leaves at 1 p.m., and I was already anxious at 8 a.m. Commenter 2, NTA. He is furious with you. That seems backwards. That you even have to ask is outrageous. You should be furious with him, both for being annoying and for having the audacity to act like he has a right to be mad at you. Women of Reddit, I implore you, please stop helicopter parenting your boyfriends. They'll never grow up if they can't learn how to sit in their own consequences. Commenter 3, NTA. Ha. The one time this happened to me, I stayed with her, and we missed our flight by like 30 minutes. She insisted on shopping for a sweatshirt during a layover. I said we didn't have time, and then never commented on the time again. Had to pay for a hotel night, and she had real trouble missing the next day of work. I never said anything at all. She now still likes to cut it close, but asks me for a time estimate, and stays with it. That missed flight was 23 years ago. Commenter 4, NTA. This is just a boyfriend, right? How long do you want to put up with this? How do you think he is going to behave during the vacation? I bet he is going to whine and pout the entire time and ruin the entire trip. Unless he shows up with an apology and demonstrates changed behavior. It would seem time to me that you, considering moving on to dating a grown-up, his behavior is his own, and thus the consequences are his own as well. Stories number 6. Entitled Neighbors. Sister blocked my driveway this afternoon. My kids get home from school today and find our driveway blocked by a car. They send me a text saying, "A car is blocking the driveway." Immediately I text the photo to my neighbor, who is the husband of the woman I've posted. About neighbor texts me back. It's his soon-to-be ex-sister-in-law, and he's surprised she's parked where she parked. I ask him to ask her to move her car, so my kids can get into my driveway and say what she's doing is illegal. Parking neighbor says he'll tell her. After 10 minutes, she doesn't show up, and I have no time for her games, so I call the non-emergency police line to report a car blocking my driveway. My son calls me saying the police arrived. Documented, the car was illegally parked, and the police call a tow truck. The second the car is hooked to the truck, there is a loud scream of, "Put my car down now!" The sister makes her appearance. The police tell her she's blocking access to the driveway and her car is being towed. The police offer to give her a ride to where her car is being taken if she doesn't have the fee to pay for her car to be released, but the woman tries to stand in front of the truck, then tries getting in her car. The police stop her, and she fights back, resulting in her being charged with assault of an officer and interfering with a tow. I can hear this entire thing unfold. My son has me on speaker. The car is taken by the tow truck, and the woman is taken by the police to the police station. Update. Just to let everyone know, this woman is the sister of my now ex-neighbor who sent this exact sister to trespass last year on my property to try to use my pool without my consent. The neighbor herself other day tried to take a package that was delivered to me, saying it was her package when it clearly wasn't. Also, neighbor had tried calling the town on my property to cut down trees that didn't need to be cut down. Comments. Commenter 1. It's so nice to read a story with a happy ending. Commenter 2. Play stupid games and win stupid prizes. Commenter 3. Finally an OP that actually just fucking calls the cops. So many stories like this, I see the OPs going, I just tried talking to them. They told me to go fuck myself and didn't move their car. And now I'm mad. As if they can't just call the cops or a tow company. Commenter 4. I have a neighbor with a large extended family. And when they're all getting together, the street looks like a used car lot. However, they never block anyone's driveway, and they stop being noisy at 10 p.m. You could almost set your watch by them. Stories number 7. I have no idea who you are. At class reunion. My high school class had our 25th reunion over Labor Day weekend. Hadn't managed to put together a reunion since our sparsely attended 5-year. We went to a small college prep school. Our class had 72 kids, where everybody knew each other. And because it was small, you could bounce between activities, so there weren't a lot of cliques. High school was mostly fine for my best friend John. Names changed and I except for one guy, named Tom, who wasn't so much a bully, as much as just a general dick to the smarter kids in the class. He constantly made jokes at our expense and pranked us with things like creating a bunch of fake invites to a fake party at my parents' house or starting a rumor that he had seen John kissing a girl who was a lesbian. John founded a company in his late 20s and has done very, very well for himself. He and to some extent myself have raised a lot of money for local charity over the years. And recently he spearheaded the construction of a STEM center to be jointly run by several area schools, including our high school. His name got put on the building. This has given him a pretty public profile and made him somewhat locally famous. Yes, his parents had some money, but he has far outpaced them. His company has a marketing assistant that has helped get his name in the news, including being featured by our high school's alumni newsletters and social media. They also manage his social media accounts because he gave up a few years ago due to time and professionalism. All this has nothing to do with ego. He is an awesome guy, but knows that his company's profile and revenue has risen because of his personal profile. Tom has, since college, always been kind of a flashy, self-promoting grifter, get-rich-quick guy. Because of social media, I know. He first tried to be a white rapper DJ in the early 2000s, then has bounced from car sales to some real estate investing thing that sounded like mortgage fraud. I'm in construction and RE, so I can recognize that crap, to some PE-sounding investment group, and now has some crypto bro thing going on. Through the years, he has heavily promoted himself on social media and even tried to do the whole pay me to teach you investment strategy thing. He even DM'd me several times with investment opportunities, to which I never responded. Fast forward to last weekend. John hosted a part of the reunion at his house, barn. He has several acres, about 50 alumni plus spouses, and probably 20 kids showed up. John and I, our spouses, and a few friends pretty much camped out on chairs on a side patio, and mostly didn't bother to mingle. We were all drinking and catching up mid-evening. Tom came over to us to glad hand. John stayed calm and exchanged general pleasantries. But quickly Tom launched into some BS. You know you have done well, but you could make a lot more money in crypto. John interrupted him with, I'm sorry, I didn't catch who you are here with. Is your wife one of our classmates? You could tell Tom was a bit taken back. No man, I'm Tom. We were classmates. Don't you remember I used to razz you? John scratched his head and said, Not really. I think I have a pretty good memory of our class, but I don't remember you at all. Then John got serious while giving a small wave to the event planner Ashley nearby. Listen, I get approached all the time like this because of my business. I get it, but this is my home and a private event. Then looking at Ashley. Hey, can you take a moment to verify the guest list? I'm not sure what's going on here, thanks. Ashley then addressed Tom while giving him a big fake smile. Right this way, sir. We just need to verify your ID against the guest list. I'm sorry. I hope you understand. Tom followed her off in a bit of a huff. John sat back down while giving me a wink, and then said to the group, It's unfortunate. I have to be careful. Someone else piped up. Yeah, that was Tom. He was in our class. John kinda shrugged and said, "Huh, must not have interacted with him much." Then changed the subject. 20 or so minutes later, Tom returned with a classmate who had largely organized the weekend and had been friends with him in HS. She said, "I hear you said you don't remember Tom. He was in our class for all 4 years. He played on the football team." John again shrugged and said, "I'm sorry. Sometimes people just fail to leave an impression on me. I hope you enjoy my home and have a lovely weekend." At that, he turned to his wife and said, "Now let's go check on the important people. Make sure the kids are having fun." If you missed this, the kids are the important people. John texted me a few minutes later. "That was fun. Comments, commenter 1. Very nice. Imagine the gall trying to go after the more successful person you bullied for years to get in on your schemes, a very subtle petty revenge that didn't ruin the vibes of the party, but had Tom sulking. Lovely commenter 2. Worked as receptionist at a business in a small town for years. The owner's son-in-law was our town's only famous person, as in Baseball Hall of Fame. Famous. The famous guy was an ass. He came in frequently to see the owner. Acted like I should be. Grateful to be in his presence, I always asked him, "Do you have an appointment? Who may I tell him is here to see him?" I could tell he hated giving me his name. It is fun. Commenter 3. Tom forgot to invest in getting a decent personality. Commenter 4. I've done the "I have no idea who you are sorry" to an ex-girlfriend I hadn't seen in almost 20 years. She was one of those, you'd regret letting back into your life after a messy breakup. I have temporal hollowing on my right side. So I point to that and said lost memories in car accident. I know she didn't believe me, but everyone around us seemed to side with me. It was great seeing her stomp around the party while insisting I faked it. I even said goodbye and that I was sorry I didn't remember her before I left. Got a nice "fuck you" for that. Stories number 8. Aita, for ruining my parents' marriage by finding my bio father and exposing my mom's lies. 1990 always knew my dad wasn't my bio dad, and it was never a huge deal. I knew I was loved either way. Mom always told us my bio father hadn't wanted to be a dad, and walked away once he learned she was pregnant. When I was 12, I started struggling with health issues, and we were repeatedly asked for family medical background. Mom swore she reached out to ask bio for any insight on his side, but he refused to give it. At the time, we were told it would be ideal to find out more if we could, but if not, we would do our best to treat me. My dad and I talked about it a lot, and he comforted me when I was upset that this guy who made me hated me so much that he wouldn't even help for a medical problem. It meant added complications and always having to explain to new doctors I was referred to that I only had half my family medical history and could not get more. And really it just sucked to think he cared so little if I could be seriously ill or not. A year ago, my Aunt Mom's sister told me that things might not be like they seemed, and maybe it would be a good idea to search for answers myself. She said the worst that could happen is he refuses to answer or gets mad at me for making contact. I asked her what she meant about things not being what they seemed, but she was tight-lipped on it. So I did a 23andMe. I ended up matched with a paternal aunt, and from there, Mom's lies were exposed to me. My paternal aunt was shocked to learn about me, and she told me she was 100% certain her brother had no idea either. She was a go-between for us at first to help set up contacting and a face-to-face meeting. When we met, he had medical info waiting for me, and he told me it was a thing I inherited from his side, and he would be a donor if I ever needed one. He was also apologizing the whole time for not knowing me, and he swore he was never told Mom was pregnant. They broke up because she cheated, and he never heard from her again, or her sister aunt who pushed me to search who he got along with during his relationship with Mom. The medical info helped, and I told him I'd have way more questions once I processed. Then I went to talk to Mom. At first she said it was all lies, then asked why I searched without saying anything, and when I told her why she admitted it was true, she said she met Dad after the guy she cheated on my bio father with left her, and she came up with the lie so we could be a normal family. And she never told my bio about me even after I got sick, because she wanted to keep things as they were. I was hurt, but so was my dad. He was mad. She denied my bio father and me the chance to know each other, but also that she lied to him the whole time they had known each other. He felt like she made him complicit in keeping me and my bio father apart, and he was super angry. She was willing to make my health stuff more difficult because I didn't have the full background, rather than do the right thing and expose her lies years ago for my sake. The medical info I got was actually helpful for my medical team. So it was worth it in that sense, but it has ruined my relationship with Mom and my parents. Marriage is done. Dad wants a divorce and already moved out of their house. My siblings blame me for it because they know what went down between us all. Comments. Commenter 1 NTA. Sorry about your mom, but congratulations on having potentially 2 really great dads. Commenter 2 NTA. What your mom did is awful and extremely selfish. She literally lied to everyone and denied your bio dad a relationship with you, and vice versa. I hope you can talk to your siblings and I'm sure they'll understand at some point. This is not your fault. These are the consequences to your mom's actions. Reply. Right now my siblings are refusing to talk to me, even with Dad telling them it's not my fault. They say it is because if I had left it alone, nobody else would know, and our family would be happy. Dad's trying to stop that mindset, but they're not changing their mind on this. Commenter 3. That's very selfish of them considering your health issues. It was medically important for you to reach out to him. If it was them, they'd have done the same. It's easy to be all high and mighty when you aren't the one with your health at stake. Reply. My dad tried pointing that out, but it did nothing. They said I didn't need the info to live. But that wasn't true either. We didn't know if mine was the one that could quickly turn life-threatening or not. Now we know, and it's literally life-saving for me, because we know mine is that. 1 commenter 4. Wait, so the health stuff isn't just inconvenient? That's what I understood from your post, but your mother selfishly risked your life to keep her lies hidden? I'm so sorry you have a mother like that, OP. I sincerely hope your siblings will understand eventually. Reply. Yes, we didn't know if it was at the time, but the paternal medical background confirmed it was not a best-case scenario. I require more monitoring and we had to change some of my meds. And we still need to keep an eye on things even with better. For me, meds. Stories number 9. Aita for mentioning my best friend's former crush on me in a speech at his wedding? Okay, I'm currently in a predicament, and frankly, I could really use some opinions. For backstory, I, F27, met one of my best friends, Christian M26, back in 2010, during our freshman year of high school. We became friends and remained close over the years since, making a lot of great memories and sharing mutual close friends. From 2013 to 2016, Christian had pretty serious unrequited feelings for me. However, he eventually got over me, and I had never even let his feelings harm our friendship. If anything, our friendship honestly got closer after he got over me. In early 2018, Christian met Victoria F29 at a bar, and they hit it off. They started dating after 2 weeks, got engaged in late 2021, and the wedding happened yesterday night. It was honestly a great time, as I watched with my parents and mutual friends, as this kid I've known for 12 years was getting married to the love of his life. Plus, Victoria and I honestly had a pretty decent relationship, and according to Christian, she didn't really seem to care about his past feelings as time went on. Anyway, as the night kept going with a lot of music and dancing, I got up to eventually give a speech for Christian. I talked about how we first met, how much our lives changed since then, and just how great of a person Christian was. The attendees were clearly touched, and Christian and Victoria both looked happy. As I talked more about our history, I jokingly mentioned how Christian had the hots for me, but that didn't matter because he found his soulmate, and that our friendship was stronger than some unrequited feelings. Most of the crowd laughed, and I could even see Christian smiling for a second before seeing Victoria's confused face. After the speech was over, I went over to the bar with a few friends. Christian came up and hugged me, thanking me for the speech. However, at our hotel, one of my other best friends, Devin F27, told me she had heard gossip from the bridesmaids that Victoria was really upset with me for bringing up Christian's previous feelings for me at the wedding. Apparently, Victoria genuinely had no issue with Christian's feelings, but felt it was inappropriate to mention them at a wedding. I sincerely intended no harm with my actions. Maybe I didn't read the room? Everyone I've told is honestly split on whether I'm the bad guy or not. So it's definitely been polarizing. Christian hasn't mentioned any of this to me, and I'm not sure I should ask him relevant comments. Commenter 1, oh, you pulled the he was into me first card. He was in love with me, but I turned him down, and so now he's with you, yeah. YTA, how tasteless. Commenter 2, I agree, this screams, I should always be the center of attention. Intended or not. Commenter 3, also, your crush was such an ego boost that I still revel in it 6 years after it ended. Commenter 4, you'll be forever. Known as the groom's female friend who said, he was into me first, during a speech at the wedding. There's a time and a place for jokes like that, but a speech at a wedding reception isn't one of them. YT Commenter 5, exactly OP for sure. Owes the couple an apology, but frankly, the person she humiliated here is herself. All the guests at this wedding will be dining off this story for years to come. The time I went to a wedding and a drunk friend of the groom tried to imply he was her sloppy seconds to the bride is a pretty killer anecdote, likely to elicit many horrified reactions and follow-up questions from its audience. Commenter 6, YTA. You don't bring that stuff up at a wedding, joking or not. This speech was supposed to be about Christian and Victoria, not about Christian's past feelings for you. Imagine how uncomfortable you made Victoria feel. I also bet the crowd laughed out of more discomfort for the situation. You need to apologize to the bride and groom. I understand you didn't mean that. Comment maliciously at all. It was just wildly inappropriate, considering time and place. Commenter 7, YTA. That was inappropriate, and I'm not sure how you could think otherwise. Wedding speeches should be about the bride and groom, not about you and the groom's history. As a side note, it sort of sounds like you weren't invited to give a speech and just sort of did? Or was there an open mic for speeches? If you just got drunk and took it upon yourself to speak, double YTA for that edit. To those of you asking about whether the speech was planned or impromptu, I had asked Christian's parents beforehand if I could give a speech, and they were more than happy with it. People have to stop with the assumptions that this has anything to do with me having feelings, though. Yeah, saying that in my speech was probs an idiot move, but my sincere intention was to tell everyone about our 12 years of friendship and some of its history, and like I said, people were touched up until my fateful joke, edit 2. I've accepted I'm TA everyone. I genuinely didn't mean any ill will bringing the crush up. It really was a way to reminisce on me and Christian's history of friendship and how far we had come. But I've realized now the wedding was the worst possible time to bring that up. Even if Victoria didn't care about the feelings in the past, I talked with Christian for a bit. And having known me for 12 years, he wasn't too mad as he said he understood. I didn't have intentionally ill motives. He did tell me I needed to apologize to Victoria. I told him I wanted to do it anyway, and I called and apologized to Victoria on the phone. We talked for around 2 hours about the whole thing, and she understood I wasn't intentionally trying to hurt either of them. I said it was unacceptable of me to ruin their wedding day, but Victoria assured me it was still a wonderful day for them, and she was happy I realized my fault. So yes, we're all pretty much good again. And I will watch it more with this stuff in the future. To those of you who gave me feedback in a civil manner. Elmo, thanks for opening my eyes. Stories number 10. My husband started taking evening runs with a woman he met at our kids' daycare. I think this crosses boundaries. AIO, my 28F husband, 30M, and I have been together for 6 years. Married for 4. I've been hurt by cheating in past relationships, so I'm probably more sensitive to situations that feel questionable. My husband decided to get serious about fitness this year and started running every evening around our neighborhood. He's really dedicated to it. Goes out every single day around 7 p.m. after dinner. I prefer morning yoga classes, so this has become his routine. Over the past few months, he's mentioned running into other people from the neighborhood and striking up conversations. There's one woman in particular, recently divorced, maybe 5 years younger, who he started running with regularly. Apparently they met when both were picking up kids from the same daycare and realized they live nearby and have similar running paces. Last Tuesday he came home later than usual from his run and mentioned he'd stopped for smoothies with a friend at that juice bar on Main Street. When I asked which friend, he seemed to hesitate before admitting it was the divorced mom from his running group. He insisted it was totally innocent, just 2 parents grabbing post-workout drinks and talking about training for the upcoming 5K. He swore nothing weird happened, and that I know he's not like that. Our marriage has been really good overall, even when we've had stressful periods with work and parenting a toddler. My husband has never given me real reasons not to trust him in 6 years, but this whole situation makes me uncomfortable. A recently divorced woman, daily evening runs together, stopping for drinks afterwards, the hesitation when I asked about it, what does everyone think? Am I being paranoid, or should I be concerned about these boundaries? Comments, commenter 1, to be phone at. I can't give an exact judgment between NOR because I think y'all really need to discuss this with each other more. First, I think this could be inappropriate or it could be totally fine. It could go either way at this point. Sit down with him and ask point blank why he felt he couldn't just talk about hanging out with a woman he's just friends with. Is there a reason he felt he couldn't share that outright? Again, this can definitely be suspicious. But it could also be that maybe he's just worried you'll get too in your head about things. That's not an excuse for him to not communicate. I want to be clear. Just talk about it. Also, maybe you should talk to him about meeting up with her as well. Of course, meeting her doesn't necessarily mean that anything inappropriate could never happen. But at the very least, maybe it could help alleviate some stress or anxiety. Men and women can absolutely be just friends. I'm bisexual, so I don't really discriminate between genders. IRT friends. And if he doesn't have inappropriate intentions, with her this really shouldn't be an issue, generally speaking. Reply. She stated the reason already. She got hurt by a cheating ex, so he hesitated out of fear. Been there, done the same. Girl I was hanging out with was lesbian, and I still hesitated because I knew how my ex would see it. IDK why people ask Reddit about this stuff instead of talking to their partner first. Using Reddit for this kind of stuff just makes you question everything and lose trust. Especially if people feed into it. Talk to your partner first. Tell him, her how you feel about it. If you're too anxious to do that, talk to friend first. And if you're still unsure, then go into an online forum. Reddit should be the last place to ask for relationship advice. IMO. There's too much weird people, trolls and bots on this site at least, for me to ask that kind of stuff. And frankly, most posts about relationships I see on here are more where people already made up their mind but need encouragement, or just straight-up creative writing. Training. Commenter 2. I had an ex-fiancé and an ex-husband both meet other women at work, and leave. Ex-fiancé went out with people from work all the time. Ex-husband would talk about a friend group from work that he wanted us to go out with. One of the women was married and had 2 kids the exact same ages as our 2. We had just had a baby a year before that was preterm, and on oxygen, and a heart monitor. Very stressful to say the least. He didn't deal well with it, I didn't. Everything, basically solely cared for him. We went out to eat with them a few times, and a movie. I did not like her. I thought he was loudmouthed and rude but remained as friendly as could be with her. One of her kids would stay overnight at our house once in a while. Husband would work on a Saturday. While I was working, I'm a nurse, and he would take our kids to her house for her to watch them one night. I was putting clothes away, and my 5-year-old son said to me he saw Daddy kissing her. My stomach went in my mouth. I was sick. He denied it, of course. Continued to deny while finally admitted. He wanted a divorce and made up all kinds of reasons. He thought our marriage wasn't working. Literally made that shit up to make what he was doing okay in his mind. They continued to deny anything was going on until the end. Here she was separating from her husband. They were going to lunch together, and she was crying on my husband's shoulder. She made up all kinds of lies. Her family was calling me, telling me what an awful person she was, and didn't he realize this? WTF you calling me for? SMH. She got pregnant, of course. Then he figured out the grass wasn't greener and asked me to come back. Nope. You showed me who you were. I could go on and on how awful it was. She hated me and made my life miserable. Treated my kids badly. She was awful. Karma is a bitch, though. 2 years married, she died of a brain aneurysm at 34. Commenter 3. It sounds like you're not coming from a place of wanting to control your husband, but rather from your own history of being hurt, and your need for transparency and reassurance in your marriage. That's really valid. I don't think you're paranoid for feeling uncomfortable. This situation does cross into a gray area. Daily, one-on-one runs, plus hanging out afterward, is a level of time and intimacy that many people would consider pushing boundaries in a marriage. especially since he hesitated to tell you who he was with. That hesitation is often more concerning than the activity itself. That said, it's also important to zoom out. He's been consistent for 6 years. You've had a good marriage, and he was upfront once you asked. This doesn't sound like a man actively trying to deceive you, but it does sound like an opportunity for you to sit down and calmly talk about boundaries. Everyone's comfort level is different, and what feels innocent to him might feel too close to you. Some ideas for that conversation. Frame it as, this situation makes me feel uncomfortable because of my history, and because I value what we have, not, you're doing something wrong. Be clear on what boundaries you need in your marriage to feel secure. Maybe group runs feel fine, but daily one-on-ones with post-run smoothies cross the line. Invite him into the discussion. Ask what boundaries he thinks are fair too. Ultimately, a strong marriage isn't about pretending these feelings don't exist. It's about being honest and building trust by honoring each other's comfort zones. Commenter 4, nor mainly because he didn't share the information freely and seemed to hide it. Hesitate. Could it be innocent? Sure, but he has to know it is walking a line if he isn't saying I went to get a smoothie with this woman, versus being purposely vague, saying it was with a friend. Honestly, it's probably not something right now, but it does sound like it's on the edge. Whether he realizes spending so much time with another woman is bordering inappropriate, if there is flirting going on, or if he realizes it is bordering on dates escalating. If they are going out after, it sounds like on some level he knows it would be upsetting for you to know all. I think this definitely warrants further conversation. Ask directly why he didn't say he went with this woman without you asking exactly who. Ask why he hesitated. Ask how he would feel if you started getting closer to a single dad and was hiding who you were meeting up with by just saying it was a friend. You can say that you understand that nothing weird was going on from his side, but the thing is, things don't start full out. They gradually get more intimate. Running club together too. Talking a lot during running club to post smoothie to lunches, etc. Can he honestly say things aren't gradually escalating? They aren't getting closer and closer? Commenter 5. Schedule a play date with all parents and the kids. This is a normal thing to do and gives you a chance to also connect with someone who could be a new friend. Edit. If she's truly just a friend, then your husband should be excited about everyone getting together. If your husband deflects and gives a bunch of reasons why it's not a good idea, then you'll have more to talk about. Commenter 6. My wife and I were close friends with another couple, and me and the other wife started training for a half marathon together, as our spouses didn't run. I would have told you before she wasn't my type, but after 2 months of long weekend runs, where we talked about everything going on in our lives, I felt myself growing more attached to her. Nothing ever happened, but after the training stopped, it almost felt like a breakup as I missed her so much. So I think romantic attachment are almost inevitable when adults spend lots of time alone together. They need to add more people to their run group or quit running together. Stories number 11. How do I deal with 3 women calling me a creep for dating someone younger? Back in my 20s, I was basically invisible to women. I wasn't attractive or confident enough, and I heard, just focus on yourself, improve, and the right one will come, more times than I can count. So that's exactly what I did. I studied hard, built a solid career, trained consistently, and worked on becoming the best version of myself. Fast forward to today. I'm 34, and I'm dating a 22-year-old woman who's genuinely into me. She's kind, fun, and supportive. The problem? 3 women around my age, one of whom rejected me years ago, have been calling me creepy, desperate, and taking advantage. Just because I'm not dating someone closer to 34, I can't help but feel the double standard here. When I was younger and struggling, these same women wanted nothing to do with me. Now that I've put in the work and someone younger appreciates it, suddenly I'm a villain. How should I handle this? Should I even respond to their accusations, or just ignore them? Comments. Commenter 1. Ignore their invalid opinions if you're happy. Easy as that. Commenter 2. How do you deal with them? You don't. You tell them to pound sand. The end. Commenter 3. Yeah, but that hot 22-year-old is blanking dudes her own age and going out with older guys. So she is basically the same, just you are seeing the flip side. Commenter 4. It could be because as someone who is 22 versus 34, they haven't had as much life experience. However, if there's no manipulation and both parties are mentally sound, supportive, and of legal age, there shouldn't be an issue. Commenter 5. Yeah, as a 29-year-old man. The idea of dating a 22-year-old is not odd as much. It's rather incompatible. I mean, man, you're 34 in your career, somewhat established, I presume. She is more than likely just graduated and starting off, or a senior in college. So you see the generational differences. Based off what you say, you seem happy, which is great, but you must understand and not be naive in thinking why others would find your situation weird or odd by societal standards. To give my 2 cents, I think you sell yourself beyond short IMO. You haven't tried, actually, working on yourself to attract and date women around you age or generation. Because if you did, and incels hate to hear this, you will become an attractive and compatible option out there in the dating world. Good luck. Stories. Number 12. AITJ4. Attending my sister's wedding even though my wife wasn't invited? I 30M have been married to my wife 29F for 3 years, together for 10. We've had a great relationship overall. A couple years ago, my wife's best friend was getting married, and my wife was the MOH. The issue was that one of the bridesmaids was my college ex. Our breakup had been messy, and the bridesmaid didn't want me at the wedding. When I found out I wasn't invited to the wedding, because of that, I was really hurt. My wife did ask me if she could still go since it was her best friend's wedding, and I said yes because it was her best friend. It was a destination wedding over a weekend. I felt pretty down while she was gone, and when she came back, she saw I was still feeling down and apologized to me. I told her it was okay. A few months later, even the bride apologized to me, and I said it was fine. It's been 2 years since, and my sister is getting married in a few months. She's my ride or die, we're really close, and she asked me to be her man of honor. She also wants me to walk her down the aisle and do the father-daughter dance with her since our dad passed away. So I've got a lot of important responsibilities. But my sister told me she doesn't want my wife at her wedding. She said the wedding would be ruined if my wife came. I was really surprised and sort of shocked when she told me that my wife and my sister are actually close, but when my wife talked to her, my sister said she still likes her. But this is a lesson my wife has to learn for attending that wedding. I wasn't invited to 2 years ago. My wife is really sad, and I don't feel great about it. But this is my sister's big day, and I want to be there for her 100%. What should I do? I really want to attend the wedding. Comments. Commenter 1. So? Your sister is punishing your wife for a wedding that she had no control over? Kinda petty and childish. Not about ride or die, just gonna lead to a not-so-friendly future between your wife and sister. As long as your sister is ready for that, because the only lesson to be learned here is your sister seeing what happens when you exclude family. Yeah, I think you should have been included at your wife bestie's wedding, and your ex should have sucked it up for one day. But still, even if it hurts, very different than being excluded from a sister-in-law's wedding, you and your wife have not done anything wrong. Somehow you are the ones being punished for other people's choices. So maybe have a talk with your sister. This will not lead to the revelation she thinks your wife will have. Commenter 2. Yes, YWBTJ. Your sister has no place teaching your wife a lesson. Period. If you want to be petty and leave your wife out because of the wedding you weren't invited to, yes, YTJ, you and your wife have either resolved this issue, in which case there is no issue, or you're still seething with resentment over it, in which case you should divorce your wife. Your sister is not your ruler. She's not your boss. She's not your mother. Your sister needs to butt out of your marriage. You told your wife you were okay with her attending her friend's wedding. That's on you. If you really didn't want your wife to attend, you needed to use your big boy words. Presumably, had you said you were uncomfortable with it, she would have put your feelings first. I am absolutely appalled at your sister meddling in your marriage. ETA. Choose your wife over your sister every single time. Or you don't deserve a wife. Thanks for the awards. Commenter 3. If you participate in this wedding after your sister told you that reason for not inviting your wife, your relationship with your wife will be permanently damaged. And her relationship with your sister will be over. Tell your sister that if she does not apologize for interfering in your marriage to your wife as well as you, that you will not be attending either. Commenter 4. It seems while you were down about not going to the wedding, you were running your mouth to your ride or die. There's no way your sister would be this petty about your wife if someone you hadn't given her an earful. You need to shut your sister down and up and stop discussing your marriage with your sister. And refuse to go if your wife isn't included. Stories number 13. My BF 24M slipped and accidentally told me he got me 19F pregnant on purpose. He says I misunderstood, but I can't let it go. Where do I go from here? Someone told me I should update here. I hope it's okay that I do and that I keep it short and sweet. I got so many replies and PMs that I'm finally reading, and I don't even know what to say. Things got really bad, especially after he saw my post account. But I'm away from him now. People who I didn't expect would be on my side have been a godsend and helped me out so much. They got me out when things were really awful, and I couldn't be more grateful. I'm still pregnant, which isn't what I wanted. But it is what it is. At this point I'm sorry, but I'm feeling a lot safer, and am figuring out what to do. I also get the feeling he's kinda losing interest in this baby, now that he's starting to realize we won't be a family together. But we'll see. I guess. So many people, women, messaged me, offering me, a stranger, help, like to take me in, fly me out, send me things, and so on. Thank you for everything, really. I wish I could do more to repay your kindness. But I hope these people, and the ones who took the time to reply, at least see this, and know how much they mean to me. Thank you so much. Comments. Commenter 1. He's kinda losing interest in this baby. Now that he's starting to realize we won't be a family together, I won't be under his control. Fix that for you. Good job on getting out. Please don't go back. Commenter 2. I'm so glad you're safe, OP. When I went to check your post some time back for an update and saw you changed it, I immediately knew he found out and was really scared for you. I am not saying this because I think you're incapable of caring for the baby, but just to remind you of options. Should you ever think you're incapable of caring for the baby, hospitals and fire stations are safe places to surrender babies at. There's also open-closed adoption. Best wishes for you, Op. And while this pregnancy isn't what you wanted, I hope it goes well for you with no complications. Commenter 3. I was so scared for you. I'm so happy to see you out of there. I only ever saw the edit, and the red flags that went up made me worry to high heaven. I debated messaging you but didn't want to put you in danger. So glad other people did, and you're safer now. You're incredibly brave, and I hope you manage to get to a happy place in your life. I hope if you don't want the baby, you have options to deal with it away from him. If you're in a position where you have no choice but to carry, I hope you're able to either keep his name off the BC or get the baby to a better home. Terminate your rights. At the end of the day, it will be your choice. But that baby was his way of controlling, ensuring your lives would be tied together forever. I'd hate to see a creep like that get what he wants. Once again, OP, so happy you got away. And I wish you every bit of luck in the world. Commenter 4. I am so happy to see this update. You are so brave. I'm glad you are away from him. I'm sorry you are still pregnant, and will have a daily reminder of him. The best thing here is for him to lose interest. He will use this baby to further control. You remember it's much easier to move before the baby gets here, so make sure you're where you want to be, location-wise. Stories number 15. I pretended to be homeless for 6 hours instead of being a tourist. I've achieved one of life's ultimate goals, not giving a shit about anything. Because of this, I don't give a shit what I look like or what other people think of me. So at the time I really did look like a homeless person. I was visiting in Chic district of Paris. I'm French, and as I walked I started to get tired of it. So I sat down next to the entrance to a metro station with a little box of sandwiches made with duck pâté and salted butter, a classic from my childhood which I quickly gobbled up. Except that people started putting coins in my box, €1, then 50 centimes. I decided, like a good rat, I'd be here for another half hour in the end. I stayed for 6 hours and made €250, not to mention the food and coupons people gave me. Worst of all, another homeless man gave me a quick piece of advice that I remembered for the whole 6 hours. Empty the box in your bag every now and then, because if there's too much money in it, people will give less. So I confess, I pretended to be homeless for 6 hours instead of being a tourist without meaning to. and I discovered that some homeless people must earn a lot more begging than I do. Commenter 1. This reminds me of the video of these guys pulling up next to a guy sitting on the street, and they tell him to put the bottle down or something, and then ask him how long he's been on the streets. He's clearly confused and lets them know that he's waiting for the bus to work, and he's drinking almond milk or something. Commenter 2. I once gave a guy €2 in his empty coffee cup, and he then looked at me confused and said he was waiting for his wife who was in the shop. I've never felt as awkward ever. Commenter 3. What's amazing is sitting still in one place for 6 hours. I don't think I could do even one. Commenter 4. That's hilarious, LOL. In the UK, we're warned about people doing that all the time, but people will still buy food and drink for the perceived homeless here, which is also a win if you're just conning them for free shit. It's a pastime. I'll give you that, haha. Stories number 16. After 4 dates with a girl, we talked about exclusivity, and she said she has yet to meet with a guy because of schedules haven't matched. What do I even do here? I met a girl on a dating app a month ago, and since then, things have been great. We've had 4 great dates, with last night being the best. We celebrated my birthday, and at the end of the date we kissed. Later that night over text, exclusivity came up, and I said I'm not seeing anyone else right now, and what I didn't tell her was I fully expected the same from her, due to how often we talk and how excited she's been to see me. I was a little shocked to hear that she's still talking to one guy, but they haven't met yet, due to schedules. I understand the dating culture and especially dating apps where these women have unlimited options, but how long do I have to wait for her to be exclusive? 4 quality dates feels like enough for me to know I don't want to be pursuing anyone else, and I'm fully interested in her. What do I say to her? Do I ask when she's going to know if she wants to be exclusive? Edited to make it clear, I didn't tell her I anticipated her being exclusive to me. Commenter 1. There are other ways she could have said it, but basically, she rejected your offer for exclusivity. As great as you think things have been, she apparently isn't on the same page as you, and you haven't caught her interest enough for her to accept that offer. Sucks being on standby like that. Your 4 dates don't have you as the clear pick versus the other person's 0 dates. Makes you wonder how much she's even into you. Commenter 2. Yeah, just because you think all the dates went fantastic doesn't mean that she did. 2. Commenter 3. Bro, sounds like you're the second choice. Commenter 4. Second choice of guys she's talking to now. Commenter 5. If you want exclusivity now and she doesn't, that's a perfectly acceptable reason to no longer continue with the relationship. Update. Thank you to everyone who helped with feedback on my last post. I read almost all of them. For those that don't know the backstory, basically I've been on 4 dates with a girl, and she is showing a ton of interest and effort. It's been a month, and I have no interest in pursuing anyone else. So I asked if she was seeing anyone, to which she said she was talking to a guy for weeks, and they still haven't found time to go on a date, but she plans to. Here was my response to her. I really appreciate the honesty. I would be open to only seeing each other from now on, as I've really enjoyed our time together and look forward to more. But I also realize that we still have a lot to learn about each other. I am okay with each of us exploring other options and revisiting this convo later down the line. So basically, I didn't shut it down, but I also let her know I'm not going to be exclusive if she isn't. To be honest, the fact that she's waiting on another guy to plan a date for weeks just kind of puts me off, and I'm losing interest pretty fast. I've already found myself pulling back and ignoring her texts for a while. How was my reaction? Comments? Commenter 1. I'm a little old-fashioned. When a gal says she's waiting out for another man, I respect that. And move on. Commenter 2. Same fact that you've been on 4 dates, and she waiting on a guy she never met. I say move on. Please tell me you didn't pay for all 4 dates. Commenter 3. I think we all know who paid all 4 dates, LOL op. I would move on. Your life, man. Better women out there for you. This one aren't it. Commenter 4. If it was me, I would walk away. For the fact that she's waiting for weeks for that guy while having been on 4 dates with you, it shows that her interest is higher for the other guy than you. Commenter 5. And as another poster pointed out on the previous post, the other guy's interest in her isn't very high, and that's why they haven't gotten a date on the schedule. He's prioritizing dates with others. She will figure it out late, and OP should move on in the meantime. Stories number 17, ATA for losing my mind after my wife's friend made her drink alcohol and tried to hook her up with another man. My wife went out with her friend for dinner. When her friend came over, she told us that it would just be her, my wife, and her other friends, and they'll be back in 2 hours or so, and my wife didn't really want to go, but I encouraged her to have fun. I was at home looking after our daughter, but my wife, after an hour, suddenly texts me to pick her up and that she's drunk, and there's a man next to her and she feels uncomfortable. Even if she wasn't uncomfortable, I would have went anyway. I was confused because it was supposed to be girls-only night. So why is a man involved? I asked my Sil to look after my daughter, and went to pick my wife up. I was angry, but I didn't want to embarrass my wife in front of everyone. So I said that my wife is drunk and she's never had alcohol, and our daughter is calling for her, and I took her home. My wife told me that she was shocked to see a man joining them on dinner, and he was being over-friendly with her. He grabbed her hand and kept touching her shoulder, and she didn't want to drink, but everyone kept pressuring her. I told my wife it's not her fault and she shouldn't blame herself, but I wanted clarification. I called her friend and asked her as to why would she make my wife drink alcohol, and why is a man involved, and we weren't informed. She doubles down and said she doesn't need to inform me, and my wife should be able to handle alcohol, and she should be okay with being around men. I called her a bith, and she's no true friend of my wife, and told her to stay away from both of us. I ended up telling everyone their actual group about what she did, and most of the women cut her off, and she's as expected pissed, and she said that I didn't need to be so dramatic, and she's lost some of her friends because of me, and a few from their group says the same thing. It's so stressful to go back and forth with these people, and I just want to cut them out of my life. They are cancer. The good ones can stay friends with my wife, and these? I want to ruin them. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. YTA. Your wife is a grown adult. If she doesn't want to drink, she doesn't drink. No one can force her to drink. If your wife has a problem with her friend, then she can handle it. Reply. My wife is never touching alcohol ever again. Not on my watch, and for as long as I am alive, my wife never drank alcohol in her life. And she was peer pressured into drinking. Every single of her friends knows this, and that is exactly why they cut this one out, and I won't let her back in my wife's life. OP responds to a downvoted comment regarding peer pressure, and for his wife to stand up for herself. Reply. My wife was forced. Being peer pressured is being forced. Nobody should be peer pressuring someone to do something they never want to. My wife never drank alcohol in her life, and she did have just one drink, and she got drunk. It was her first experience with alcohol, and she didn't know how to react, and mix that with her experience with another man grabbing her hand and touching her shoulder. Yeah, I don't blame my wife. She made a mistake, and everyone does. And so did I by trusting her friend, but the mistake she made is forgivable, and I would never blame her for her actions when it was influenced by others. Commenter 2. The fact that your wife was uncomfortable and texted you for help means that you are 100% NTA. Sounds like our wife just weeded out a shitty friend. Goodbye and good riddance. Reply. My wife was uncomfortable and she made a mistake, which she regrets. And I am glad that my wife called me, and I can't possibly blame her. A lot of commenters here are calling me controlling, and the other half is blaming my wife for not saying no. I know she did, and my wife knows that if she's in distress, she can rely on me. She knows that if she's in trouble, I will give up everything and help her. Commenter 3. Seriously, man, I'm going to assume your wife, the mother of your daughter, is a full-grown adult. It was good that she called you to get her out of this, but she needs to work on saying no for herself so that she doesn't end up in a similar or worse situation in the future. What would have happened if one of your phones were dead, unreachable, or the alcohol hit her even harder? She was pressured, but no one poured the alcohol down her throat. NTA. But this does need to be addressed. Reply. It is already addressed. My wife is a full-grown adult, yes, but even full-grown adults can mistakes. My wife never had alcohol in her life, and she didn't know how it would affect her and how much would it take to affect her, and she was relying on her friend, but next thing she knows that she's being harassed by another man who's grabbing her hand and touching her. My wife was oblivious, and so was I, and she's learned for this huge mistake, and so did I. Nothing could have prepared her for this situation, and for consuming alcohol, or for getting harassed. We both learned from this. and we will be careful in future. And it's not exactly good that she called for me. It's a requirement that I show up to help her. A husband who doesn't take care of his wife or protective of his wife is a failure, according to me. I am a bit more protective and possessive of my wife than other husbands, but that is beside the point. I am trying to make OOP responds to a comment on how his wife is doing in the aftermath. Reply: actually, after hundreds of comments, I think you are the only one who asked how my wife is doing. And if she's okay, I think most of the people here just want to speak their mind and prove themselves right. My wife is fine, but she's sad because she lost a friend she used to trust. She's got betrayed and harassed, and I think she just needs time for herself to put her thoughts straight. Thank you, kind stranger, for asking how my wife is doing. Update: Aita, for losing my mind after my wife's friend made her drink alcohol and tried to hook her up with another man. My wife went out. Her friend and this ex-friend of her lied to us that it was girls' night, but she invited a man who kept touching my wife, her shoulder and her hand, and when my wife was uncomfortable, she called me to pick her up, and her so-called friend made her drink alcohol. My wife had never drank alcohol before, but her former friend forced her and this man was touching her. Since I brought my wife back home, we have been living stress-free with our daughter, but her ex-friend kept texting my wife that she wants to explain herself and my wife shouldn't cut her off. When I asked my wife what she plans to do about her ex-friend, she said she wants to talk to her, but she wants to cut her off. But before she cuts her off, she wants to talk to her. I said that she would just be reminded of getting drunk and getting touched by that man, and she should just let it go and she should focus on our family, our daughter, and she agreed. But she's still disappointed. And I think it's just her trauma and reopen wounds. Called her ex-friend and told her to stay away from us, but she said that it's my wife's decision and I shouldn't interfere and stop reading her texts. My wife's friends were already angry at her and so was I, and we told her parents what she did. And she's furious because we are bad guys? She thinks she isn't and I shouldn't have made it public. And my wife said that we shouldn't have made it public. My wife's good friends is with me and they encouraged me. And they said they'll talk to my wife and tell her that it was necessary. Well, am I asshole for telling my wife's ex-friend's parents of what she did? Relevant comments. UP responds to a downvoted comment about the peer pressure not being the possibility. Reply: are you telling me that you can't be peer pressured? What if you trust someone and you end up trying alcohol for the first time, and you expect your friend to help you, but next thing you know that someone else is touching you because you are drunk and can't think properly? If one is experienced with alcohol, they can control themselves, but if you are not, then you likely can't. If it's your first time, my wife is an adult, and she chose it because she trusted her friend, and I did trust her as well. And we both made a mistake, especially my wife, but I am extremely glad and thankful that my wife called me and I picked her up. YOOP and his wife did told her friend's parents about what happened. Reply: we told her parents. Because it's the most effective way to shut her up and it worked. Her parents needs to know what kind of daughter they raised. Stories number 18. Tifu, by trying to break my buddy out of jail. It worked. For a minute. This is the story of a jailbreak that actually worked. For about a minute. It happened years ago. I won't share certain specifics, and I'll use fake names, but this was the most epic screw-up I've ever been part of, and it was mine at the time. I was in the military, stationed stateside one night, a group of buddies, and I discovered Jagger bombs round after round. We kept them coming, and before we knew it, the night had flown by. My friend Brian offered to drive my roommate and me back to our off-base apartment. We didn't make it far. A car full of three 21-year-olds leaving a bar at 2 a.m. near a military base. That drew police attention. We got pulled over, and as soon as the officer reached Brian's window, it was clear we were drunk. All of us admitted it. Brian blew into the breathalyzer and failed instantly. He was cuffed and placed in the back of the patrol car. Then the officer turned to my roommate and me. He explained that if one of us blew under the limit, we could drive Brian's car home and save him the impound fees. We both tried. We both failed. Here's where it gets weird. The officer left us with Brian's car and the keys. Then he drove off with Brian to book him into the local jail. To this day, I have no idea why he left us like that. About 20 minutes later, my roommate and I had what seemed like a brilliant idea. Quick note. This all happened years ago. Back when DUI penalties were just starting to become as serious as they are today. We were young, reckless, and unbelievably stupid. I don't condone drinking and driving in any way, and I'm grateful that nobody was hurt. Now back to the bad ideas. Both my roommate and I were military police officers. We felt guilty for letting Brian drive us, and now he was in trouble. So with zero judgment, we decided to drive Brian's car back to our apartment ourselves. It wasn't far, but that doesn't excuse the stupidity. And then, somewhere between leaving the bar and arriving home, we came up with the ultimate plan. We were going to break Brian out of jail. The master plan. Here's how it went down, step by step. Return Brian's car to our apartment. Brush our teeth, pop in gum shave, and get into our military police uniforms. On our guard belts to look like we were on duty. Call my precinct's dispatch and ask them not to contact the jail Brian was at. Every night, the command checked local jails for military members. Luckily, I knew the dispatcher on duty and he owed me a big favor. He agreed without asking questions. Call the jail directly, pretending to be my command. I asked if any military members were in custody. They confirmed Brian was there. I then asked if we could come take him into custody. They said yes. Switch cars, leave Brian's car at the apartment, and take one of our own. Give ourselves one last pep talk, then head out. We pulled into the jail parking lot around 4 a.m. It was completely empty. We buzzed at the entrance, explained we were there to take custody of Brian, and were told, okay. 25 of the longest minutes of my life later, a loud buzzer sounded. The heavy metal doors slid open, and there stood 2 corrections officers and Brian in handcuffs. The look on his face was priceless. Jaw dropped. Pale as a ghost, I told the officers I'd put my own cuffs on him so they could take theirs back. I even gave him a pat-down before swapping them out. And just like that, Brian was in my custody. We thanked the officers, walked him out, and headed across the lot toward our car, hearts pounding. That's when my roommate whispered, "Don't get in the car. Don't get in the car." I turned around to see the arresting officer standing behind us. He looked us dead in the eye and asked, "Aren't you two the passengers from the vehicle I pulled over tonight?" Busted our luck had run out. The lot had been empty when we arrived, but while we were inside waiting, the arresting officer had pulled in and was sitting in his patrol car doing paperwork. He watched us walk Brian out of jail like it was nothing. You can guess what happened next. We all went to jail by 8 a.m. Our command came to get us. Back at base, I was told to go home, pack my things, and be ready because this wasn't going to end well. The next day, I returned and didn't leave base for 45 days, until we deployed again. The fallout. I was punished. To the fullest extent of the Uniform Code of Military Justice, I disappointed a lot of people, and I carried that shame. But at the same time, I was infamous. Word spread fast. Everyone knew about the failed jailbreak. And for better or worse, it made us celebrities. People said we embodied loyalty. You had to admire the audacity, even if the execution was insane. Thankfully, this didn't end my career. I served out my enlistment honorably, and I've never screwed up like that again. Looking back now, it was crazy, reckless, and absolutely stupid. But it's also one of those wild stories that remind me of the bonds we had as brothers in arms. We tried to break a friend out of jail, and for a brief, glorious moment, it worked. TLDR. My buddy Brian got a DUI. I was drunk in the car with him when he was arrested. As a military police officer, I later impersonated an on-duty MP, convinced a jail to release him, and walked him out. Then the arresting officer caught us in the parking lot. We went to jail. I almost ruined my career. But years later, I can look back at the sheer stupidity of the night. I broke a friend out of jail. For a minute, comments, commenter 1. For all you know, you are now a test case in officer training school in which students are challenged on how they'd handle it. Commenter 2. I was assuming he left you with the car and the keys, hoping you'd be stupid enough to drive it away. You were. But he wasn't watching you by then. Commenter 3. I like to think the superior officers were proud that you would go above and beyond for your fellow soldiers, but couldn't say that outwardly because it was illegal. Commenter 4. This is the kind of insane loyalty that gets you both a court-martial and a legendary barracks story for life. Stories number 19. Aita for not letting my affair child's bio-grandparents meet her after they called me a homewrecker. Throwaway account. I had an affair with a married man. I had no idea that he was married, but once I found out, it took some time for me to cut it off, 2 days, because I was looking for a way to end it without me getting the blame from my parent. I was pregnant, and by that time, it was too late to abort. My daughter, I came to find out that his wife was also pregnant, and about to give birth in a couple of weeks. I told her and she cursed me out and told me to leave her husband alone. Even though that's what I planned on doing, I was able to find his parents' contact info and message them asking if they wanted a relationship with their grandchild, and telling them about the affair, etc. I felt that there was no need for my daughter to be deprived of having grandparents because her father lied. His parents demanded a paternity test, and when it was revealed that their son was the father, they ended up calling me a homewrecker and other degrading words. They called my daughter a bastard and said that she wouldn't be a part of their family. They compared my daughter to their daughter-in-law's soon-to-be-born child and said that they wanted a real grandchild. Fast forward, their real grandchild ends up having Down syndrome. My daughter's father's siblings came to find out through their parents that I had a child and wanted to be a part of her life. It turns out that there's still my daughter's father's wife was a daughter-in-law from hell, and that they did not like her behavior, that she was rude, racist, etc. I agreed to let them have a relationship with my daughter, as she was their kids' cousins. I ended up meeting my current husband and together we have 4 kids. My daughter's aunts and uncles ended up going NC with their parents, and their brother, my daughter's bio dad, after they tried multiple times to invite themselves to their house. Whenever my daughter's aunts and uncles had her for a sleepover or just to get a glimpse of her and take pictures to send them to her son and daughter-in-law. For what reason? I have no idea. My daughter is currently 17, and she knows that she has a half-sibling who has Down syndrome and that she is an affair child. She has a good relationship with her cousins, aunts, and her half-siblings. My other kids from my husband. My in-laws sent me a message that they were going for grandparent rights, and that my daughter's biological father and his wife were going to court to get some kind of custody of my daughter, mind you. My daughter has never once met them, and refuses to meet them. Comments? Commenter 1. She is 17. They won't do anything. LL reply, he wants to claim parental alienation, and that he had no idea he had a child. Commenter 2. I hope they do take you to court. The judge will laugh in their faces and you'll walk out of there with 17 years worth of back child support. NTA Commenter 3. NTA, they were very clear that they didn't want to be part of her life. Grandparents' rights are generally for if the grandparents in question already have a significant relationship with the child, and the parents are trying to cut off contact. They've never had contact with her. Also, she's 17. It's her choice at this point who she wants in her life, and I doubt they will be able to get through the process before she's 18. The fact that they have a Down syndrome child in the house works against her bio dad on custody too. Especially, if the child needs significant care, I highly suspect a judge would laugh them out of court. Honestly, the worst-case scenario is probably that she'll have to see her bio dad and grandparents a few times before she's 18 and doesn't have to anymore. Stories number 20. My 20th boyfriend 23M sided with another girl 23 over me and made me feel humiliated last night. I was out to dinner with my boyfriend and a female friend she's dating, his best friend, while we were eating. She casually told me I should stop eating at night and lose some weight. What hurt more was my boyfriend agreeing with her, saying, "She's right, it's for your own good." I didn't say anything, but I felt completely humiliated, and the topic of doing a mukbang came up. My friend said she talked to my boyfriend earlier, and he said no, that I couldn't do it because I'm getting fat and would end up like a popular overweight streamer. They both laughed. I stayed silent again. I felt embarrassed, like he wasn't taking my stand. To add to this, earlier that day my boyfriend had used her perfume, a pocket one, after smoking. I casually asked about the scent on his wrist, and he denied it at first, then admitted it was hers. It's not the first time he's made comments comparing me to her. He once said, I don't have a body or height like hers, when I wanted to join them for work at an event. They refer to each other as brother and sister, but he listens to her more than me, makes decisions with her, and talks to her in ways he never does with me. When I try to share how I feel, he says I'm overreacting or trying to control him. Am I being too sensitive? Or is this all a red flag I need to stop ignoring? Comments, commenter 1. So your boyfriend is making fat jokes about you with another girl in front of your face. Read that out loud, please, Nor. And he wants to wear her perfume because I'm actually dead by commenter 2. He wishes she was his GF. She's entertaining it. They're tag-teaming bullying you under the guise that they're just trying to be helpful, honest, but the goal is purely to make you feel bad and keep you insecure enough that you'll believe them when they tell you you're overreacting. And insecure, commenter 3, someone who gets on your case about your weight in front of other people isn't being a good partner. It's one thing to approach your partner in private, to express concern that they're not taking care of themselves. Quite another to do it, public. This should probably be a relationship extinction event. Even if you do need to lose weight to be healthy, humiliating you isn't the way to get that to happen. Commenter 4, can you say more about how you are willing to respond to this? Anyone who reads it sensibly is going to tell you to break up. You keep writing that you can't, won't. So what are the viable options? Are you willing to make any changes to your relationship or not? Because if all you want is for us all to tell you that you're not overreacting so that you can do nothing about it, that seems pretty silly. Stories number 21. ATA for telling my Sil the truth about my brother and my husband. I 29F have a husband named Matt, 32M, and an older brother named Tony. 32M, Tony has a wife named Anna, 30WF Tony, and I both went to boarding school growing up. I went to an all-girls school, and he went to an all-boys school across the country because of the distance we weren't very close as kids, and I didn't know much about his life back then. When Tony was at boarding school, he met my future husband Matt, and they became best friends. At the time, Tony was dealing with depression about his sexuality, and Matt helped him out of it. Long story short, they ended up falling in love and having a relationship. Once they graduated high school, they broke up and lost touch. I didn't know about any of this at the time. I ended up going to the same university as Matt, which is where I met him. I didn't mention my brother initially because he wasn't really a part of my life. And since Tony and I have different last names, the three of us didn't put the pieces together until a family gathering a year later. I'm not gonna lie, it was tough at first for everyone involved, but eventually we were all able to get past it. And Tony and Matt became best friends again. Matt and I got married 3 years ago. When I met Tony's partner Anna for the first time, I privately asked Tony if he told her about his history with Matt. Tony said it was still a new relationship, and he would tell her when they were more serious. Now Tony and Anna are married. Since Tony and Matt are so close, they often go on boys' trips with just the two of them. They took one of these trips this past weekend and everything was going fine until I got a call from Anna asking if I knew where Tony was. Apparently he told her he was going to see our parents, but she called them, and he wasn't there. I told her that he was on a trip with Matt. She got upset and asked me if there was something going on between them. Thinking she already knew because she and Tony are now married, I told her not to worry because Matt and Tony's romance ended in high school. That's when I found out Tony never told her. Tony was furious at me when he got back because Anna is threatening divorce and I'm tearing up his family because I told her without asking him first. Apparently Tony didn't tell Anna the truth because he thought she wouldn't let him see Matt anymore. And now Anna wants him to cut me and Matt out completely. Matt is upset too because he can't see Tony, and he's losing his best friend all over again. My brother wants to cut me out of his life. His wife wants a divorce, and my husband is miserable. All because of something I said. I feel so guilty and can't help but feel as though I messed up. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, NTA, this is on your brother. This was quite a big secret to keep from his wife, and he did tell you that he'd tell her when they get more serious. So it's only natural for you to assume, since they are now married very serious, that he has told her. Then again, I can't help but wonder why he lied to his wife about being at his parents' place. Why couldn't he tell her he was with Matt? Especially if they go on these boys' trips so often together. Has he lied to his wife every time they go? Yeah, no wonder his wife is fuming. Reply, from what my brother's wife has told me, she never knew about the boys' trips until now, and my brother apparently had different excuses for being gone every month, and that's why she got suspicious. She Didn't tell me why she suspected something with my husband, though. Neither she nor my brother will take any of my calls to give me any answers. Commenter 2, I would be concerned about my husband taking one-on-one trips with his ex-lover. Does it not seem real to you because his ex is a man? Your husband was in love with your brother, romance over or not. This kind of sneaky behavior is a massive red flag. If his ex was a woman, would you still be this blaze? NTA for what you said to Sale? But yeah, might want to look at that friendship a bit more closely when Tony is lying to cover up his trysts. Reply, I think it's less him being a man, and more it being my brother and husband. Two people who I love and trust very much. I didn't want to believe that either of them would hurt me like that. But I'm starting to think I've been willfully ignorant to this behavior until now. When it's right in front of me, commenter 3, YTA look. The bottom line is, it's never okay to out someone. You may not have thought you were doing something wrong. And frankly, I think it's creepy that your brother is lying to his wife in a way that makes her think he's cheating. But at the end of the day, outing someone is wrong. And this is an example of why outing people is harmful. Bi men get a lot of hate. Many bi men are assumed to be gay, and that their girlfriends, wives, are just a part of compulsory heterosexuality. They're the subject of a lot of serophobic vitriol. Bis in general are considered to be promiscuous cheaters. And before anyone tries to point out that Tony was lying about going to his parents, I want to say it doesn't really matter if you expect LGBT people to be perfect. Before they're worthy of safety, privacy, and happiness, please just give me my damn downvote and go reply. I haven't been replying to comments, but I just wanted to make a quick clarification. My brother is out as bisexual, including to his wife, who has known since they started dating. He came out to her himself. The only thing she didn't know was his history with my husband. So I didn't out his bisexuality to her, but I did tell her about Tony and Matt dating in high school. I am bi myself, so I understand how terrible biphobia can be, especially for bi men. And I would never wish that. For my brother or my husband, I still value your input, though. I wish I had handled it better for the sake of everyone involved. Commenter 4. I'm sorry you were going through this. I know it is a bad situation, but realistically, you have to realize that there is a very high likelihood that your brother and your husband are carrying on an affair. There's a reason that he lied to his wife. If he was just going out for a boys' trip, he would not have needed to lie. You are so close to the situation that you likely don't see. But your sister-in-law put two and two together before she even knew that there was potential for something to be happening. I think this is something you should probably pay attention to and talk to your husband about. Edit. I really appreciate everyone's comments. Some of them are very hard to read, but I suppose this is a wake-up call that's long overdue. I know it may seem difficult to believe that someone my age can be so naive and clueless, but being rational is something I've always struggled with. I wish it were fake. I'm realizing that this is most likely far worse than I thought it was. I won't be able to respond to individual comments for a bit, but I am reading all of them in the meantime and will post an update when I can edit. 2. I've seen a lot of comments asking why I didn't say anything about the trip sooner, what I thought they were doing. So I'll just answer here for the sake of convenience. My brother has been struggling with pretty severe depression for the past few years. Because of this, he doesn't go out much or have many friends. My husband is his only close friend and the only one Tony will open up to, because my husband helped him through depression when they were younger. The outings with Matt are one of the few things that make my brother happy. Matt always told me they do regular things like play video games and watch movies and go biking. So I didn't think too much into it, even with Matt being Tony's ex. I thought it was more like Matt was helping his friend through a tough time. I see now how stupid I was to assume that. But that was my thought process. Edit 3. Please don't let this post be a justification for homobiphobia. Whatever happens with my brother and my husband isn't reflective of gay bi people as a whole. Edit 4. Wow, I stepped away for a bit, and there are a ton of comments. I won't be able to respond individually as there's a lot going on right now clearly, but I'll still be reading. Before I sign off, I have a couple quick updates. Matt agreed to tell me everything after I've given him some time and space to process all of this. As much as I and probably you all want answers now, that's what I'll be doing. Still no word from brother or SIL. I'm going to give it a rest for the day and try to focus on something that doesn't terrify me. I will be back with a separate update post when things make more sense. Thanking you all. Also, I have seen Brokeback Mountain. Evidently, it's a lot more fun on screen than it is in real life. Update, ATA for telling my Sil the truth about my brother and my husband. After I gave my husband space, I confronted him about his trips with my brother. He agreed to be honest with me about their relationship. As some of you suspected, Matt knew when we first met that I was Tony's sister and started dating me to get close to Tony again. He claimed that in the first year of our relationship, before he reunited with Tony, he genuinely fell in love with me. When Tony saw us together, he admitted to Matt that he still loved him and was distraught when Matt said he didn't feel the same way. Eventually, they made amends and became close friends again. Around the time Matt married me, Tony fell into a deep depression. That's when the trip started. Matt told me that initially he was just supporting Tony as a friend. But Tony broke down on one of the trips and confessed that he never stopped loving Matt, and was lying about the trips to his wife because he felt guilty also, why he never told her about their history. He begged Matt to keep this a secret to protect their relationship. According to Matt, nothing physical ever happened between them. I pushed him on why Anna thought there was something going on, and Matt eventually admitted they were having an emotional affair a few months ago. Anna overheard a phone call between Tony and Matt that made her suspicious, so she went through Tony's phone and confronted him about some things she found. No hard proof, but enough to make her uneasy. She told Tony she didn't want him hanging out with Matt anymore, but he did anyway until I accidentally ratted him out. My brother and Sil have totally cut contact, so I don't have anyone to corroborate my husband's story. I still don't know how much of it I believe. If it's true, I don't know why Anna never told me anything. The whole thing sounds too ridiculous to be real. But for now, it's all. Matt has apologized non-stop and wants to work through this, which I can't even think about right now. The past couple of weeks have been awful. Matt moved out. We both agreed that we need distance before making any decisions about our marriage, but I don't see us coming back from this. I don't think I'll ever be able to trust anyone again. The worst thing is, I only have myself to blame for being so fucking naive and not seeing the massive red flags sooner, and for marrying my brother's ex in the first place. More than anything, I feel so incredibly guilty. This was not the ending I'd hoped for, but I'm grateful that I at least have some answers now. Honestly, I'm not sure I would have had the courage to directly confront this if not for my post here. So despite everything, maybe we can all think of this as somewhat of a happy ending. Thank you all for your comments and support. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. I'm so sorry. I remember commenting on your post back then. This is not your fault. You did nothing to deserve this. Don't feel stupid. You trusted someone you loved, and unfortunately that trust was not honored. But that doesn't make it your mistake. I hope you heal from this and find peace. What a terrible situation they've both put you and Anna in. Reply, thank you. It's been so hard to not blame myself. I can only hope that this pain will pass in time. Commenter 2. I'm sorry this happened to you, but I can promise you are not done trusting. Life is long and weird, so don't write your heart off yet. Within 6 months of my birth, my mom found out that not only had my bio dad been cheating their entire 8-year relationship, but that many of their friends knew, and he'd told them all to keep quiet about it because, according to him, my mom already knew but didn't want it mentioned. The divorce is long and bloody. It takes 5 years, and he pulls out all the stops to ruin my mom's life to punish her for not putting up with his infidelity. He goes as far as to mistreat me to punish her. My whole young life, she honestly told me she could never see herself getting married again after a betrayal like that. Fast forward to when I am 7. Through a blind date she really didn't want to go on but had no graceful way of ducking out of. She meets a man. His wife cheated on him and then left him for another man, and he's still reeling and trying to be a good single father. He is sweet and honest and kind, and loves her more than his own life. He also loves me just as much as his own bio kids. A year later, they are married. A year after that, I get a new baby brother. Now, my mom and stepdad are 19 years, and counting. Now definitely sucks, but it's the lowest point. Maybe it would help if you did what my mom did. Buy yourself a big, pretty-smelling candle. When you feel sad, Light it. When you feel a bit better, blow it out. By the time it's gone and you can't light it anymore, you will be feeling on average so much better than you are right now. So when you see the candle, you will know that you have just that. Much wax left until life is nice again. Reply: this comment made me cry for reasons I can't properly put into words. Thank you for sharing your story. I feel very comforted after reading it. The candle idea is brilliant and I will absolutely try it. Commenter 3. I'm sorry this is happening to you. You have done nothing wrong. You trusted your husband and brother, which is something you should be able to do. You saw the best in them and they failed you. I'm concerned. You had to press your husband to get him to admit the emotional affair and he's now claiming nothing physical happened. That sounds like trickle-truthing, and especially given the way he's pressing you to work through it, instead of respecting your need for space, raises red flags to me. Please be gentle with yourself. Getting through this, no matter what, the ending will be a marathon, not a sprint. I hope you find peace and happiness down the road. Reply: thank you so much. A marathon, not a sprint, is a great way to think of it. Right now it feels like this will never end, but I've been doing my best to remind myself that I'll get through it in time. Commenter 4. Why do you feel guilty? You did nothing wrong. No thing. Even telling the wife was based on what you thought your brother had done, not malice. You weren't TA in the original post and certainly NTA now. You have a tough road ahead. Your men lied to you. That will take some time. Reply: I think the guilt is coming from me feeling as though Tony and Matt were each other's the whole time, and I was the one who stepped in the middle and ruined it. Rationally, I know that isn't true, but this whole thing has been such a shock to me that I can't get rid of the feeling. Stories number 22. My job offer turned into a negotiation nightmare, and now I'm not sure if I should walk away or bite the bullet. I've been sitting with this for a few days now, and honestly, I need to get it off my chest. Maybe someone out there has been through something similar, because right now I'm stuck between feeling grateful for an opportunity and also completely disrespected. So a little context: I'm 34M, based in Chicago. I've been unemployed for about 7 months after being laid off in a massive restructuring at my old company. It's been brutal. I've burned through a chunk of savings, had countless interviews that went nowhere, and spent a lot of time questioning my own value in the job market. Anyone who's been unemployed that long knows what I mean when I say it eats at you. Every day without work feels heavier. When I finally landed an interview with a startup called Next Wave Tech, I felt like maybe my luck was turning. It's a small company, pre-Series A funding, but they're in an interesting space, and the role they were hiring for was exactly aligned with my skill set. Product strategy and operations. I knew it wasn't going to be some cushy corporate gig, but I also figured startups can sometimes offer exciting growth and equity opportunities from the very first round. I was upfront about my expectations. I told them what salary range I needed, based on both market value and my financial reality, and mentioned that things like healthcare coverage, remote flexibility, and professional development stipends were really important to me. I wasn't asking for some insane package, just something fair. The process dragged on. 5 rounds of interviews, plus a take-home assignment that ate up an entire weekend. By the end of it, I felt like I'd given them a small consulting project for free. But whatever. I played the game, because I wanted the role. Fast forward to last week. They finally sent me an offer. I opened the email, and my heart immediately sank. The base salary was way below the number I'd given them early on, like not even in the same ballpark. On top of that, none of the perks I'd asked about were included. Not even basic stuff like a healthcare plan worth mentioning. It felt like whiplash. I went from excitement to frustration in about 10 seconds. Still, I tried to stay professional. I emailed them back, politely pointing out the discrepancies and requesting adjustments based on the conversations we'd had throughout the process. To their credit, they did respond quickly and sent over a revised offer, except the revision felt more like a bait and switch than a genuine adjustment. They basically gave me 2 options. Option A: a salary closer to what I'd requested, but with several perks removed, like professional development budget and commuter reimbursement. Option B: the same lowball salary from the first offer, but with all the perks included. I sat with it for a day, talked it over with my girlfriend, and decided to counter. I figured, okay, negotiations are part of this process. So I wrote back suggesting a middle ground. Keep all the perks, bump the base salary to a fairer number, and add a signing bonus that would vest after I'd been there a certain period of time. To me, that felt like a very reasonable compromise. That's when things got weird. The hiring manager, let's call him Ethan, called me directly instead of emailing back. His tone was polite at first, but it shifted quickly. He basically said, "Even what we offered you initially was higher than what this role should pay. We went above market because we believed in your potential to take our company to the next level. But if compensation is your biggest concern, maybe this isn't the right fit." I was floored. I don't know if anyone here has been in that situation, but it's a gut punch. On the one hand, you're relieved they think you're talented. On the other hand, they're clearly trying to guilt trip you into taking less money by saying you should be grateful for the opportunity. I stayed calm on the phone, told him I appreciated the offer, but felt strongly that my counter was fair and reflected both the role and my experience. I said I understood if they needed the weekend to think about it. He kind of sighed, said he'd take it back to the team, and we hung up. That was Friday. I sent a follow-up email that evening restating my counter clearly and thanking them again for their time. Now it's Monday, and I'm sitting here stewing, wondering if I just torpedoed my only solid lead after 7 months of unemployment. Here's the thing. I don't think they're bad people. The interview process was actually pleasant, and everyone I met seemed genuinely passionate about what they're building. But the negotiation part has left a bad taste in my mouth. It's one thing to haggle over numbers. It's another to try and manipulate me into feeling like I'm asking for too much when I know damn well I'm asking for fair market value. Part of me wants to cave, accept the offer, and just get back to work. God knows my bank account could use it. But another part of me worries that if I give in now, I'll set the tone for how they treat me going forward. Undervalued, underpaid, and expected to be grateful, no matter what. So I guess that's why I'm here. Has anyone else been in this kind of negotiation standoff? Do I walk away, or do I swallow my pride and accept because a job is better than no job? Right now, I feel like I'm damned if I do, and damned if I don't. Commenter 1. I personally wouldn't want to start a job knowing my employers already think I'm overpaid. Reply. That's a good perspective. Commenter 2. That's the problem when a company knows you are unemployed. They try to lowball. If you were employed, then they try to compete. Hopefully you can come to an agreement. Commenter 3. Remember, you have already put in the work of 5 rounds and a case study. If you are really good at navigating this current job market, i.e. lots of interview requests or other job offers, I would say stick to your guns regarding your initial salary expectations. However, if you aren't confident that another opportunity or offer will present itself soon enough, and you may have to struggle for a while, I would say just take the best that they can offer, and keep looking. I get you won't be able to devote as much time and energy to your job search if you take this job, but at least you'll have steady income. Reply. Yes. I mean, if I did not have the means to support my family throughout this period, and in the close future, I would not have negotiated, and I do believe I have leverage to negotiate it. Commenter 4. Remember, you have been unemployed for 7 months. You have better bargaining power when you have a job. Unless you have $100K in savings, take the job, then look for something else that will give you all the perks. Reply. I have the savings, but I want to start working already, but also don't want them to dump hell on me just because I am overpaid. Got some processes that might yield an offers, so might be leaning more toward let this one go and try the others. Stories number 23. My strict mom, 60F, caught me lying about a sleepover. I'm 27F, and just trying to have a sex life. So here I am, 27 years old, sitting in my bedroom in my parents' house like I'm still in high school, and I honestly don't know whether to laugh, cry, or scream into a pillow. I feel like I'm way too old to even be typing this out, but apparently age doesn't save you when you've got a strict mom who treats you like you're still 16. For background, I live in Atlanta, work in my dad's family business, which, side note, is its own complicated dynamic, and live with my parents to save money. My mom, Linda, is 60 and has always been that mom. The one who comments on every choice I make. The one who's never been shy about expressing her opinion on who I date, what I wear, how late I come home, or what she thinks my priorities should be. When I was younger, I thought it was just a cultural generational thing. My parents are very traditional. But at 27, it feels exhausting. Even if I go out for a coffee date, she wants to know the guy's entire resume. Last time I told her about someone I was casually seeing, she critiqued his job, his haircut, and even the way he smiled in photos. "You deserve someone more polished," she said. Like, "Thanks, Mom." Now, fast forward to the actual mess. I recently started seeing a guy, Eric, 32M. He's not the one. I'm not in love with him, and we're both very clear on that. He's fun, he's kind, and honestly, after a 3-year dry spell post-breakup, I just wanted to remember what intimacy felt like. Again, Eric is staying at a hotel downtown for work. So I went over last night, had dinner with him, and yes, stayed over, nothing wild. Just two consenting adults enjoying each other's company. Here's where things get messy. I didn't tell my mom. Instead, I lied and said I was at a girlfriend's house for a sleepover. Why? Because I knew exactly what would happen if I told her the truth. She would have given me the speech about respectable women don't stay overnight with men they're not engaged to. She would have called me indecent, nagged me until the moment I walked out the door, and probably tried to guilt me into staying home. So I figured lying was easier. Except I got caught. She called me late at night when I was already asleep at Eric's. I didn't answer. She kept calling. When she couldn't reach me, she decided to call the friend I said I was staying with. That friend was at a dance class, so her boyfriend picked up, and when my mom asked for me, he, very confused, said, "She's not here." So when I finally answered my phone the next morning, I got hit with the interrogation. "Where were you? Why did you lie? Do you think I'm stupid?" And of course, she had that tone, the one that makes me feel 12 years old again. I froze, made up some half-excuse, and now I'm completely busted. Here's the thing. I don't feel guilty about wanting a sex life. I'm 27. It's normal. What? I do feel guilty about his lying, but lying honestly felt like the only option. If I had told her the truth, I would have been shamed and berated anyway, so now I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place. If I keep lying, I feel gross and sneaky in my own home. But if I tell the truth, I get slut-shamed and treated like I've committed some unforgivable sin. Either way, I feel like I can't win. I haven't spoken to her since yesterday morning. I know a confrontation is coming. It's just a matter of time before she sits me down in the kitchen and delivers her lecture about morals, respectability, and how could you do this under our roof? Moving out isn't an option right now. Rent is insane, and while I do make money working for my dad, I also have student loans I'm still paying down. Living at home is the financially smart choice for me right now. But emotionally, it feels like I'm living in a pressure cooker. I just want some privacy. I just want to be treated like an adult who can make her own decisions without it turning into a scandal. So Reddit, what do I do? Has anyone else dealt with a strict parent well into adulthood? How do you create boundaries without blowing up your entire relationship? I don't want to lie, but I also don't want to be scolded like a teenager for having a sex life commenter. 1. As a person with an overly controlling mom, you stonewall deal with her like you would deal with someone crazy on drugs because she's a bit crazy, and just keep a bored and level approach. Don't raise your voice. Don't explain. Don't give ammunition. You're an adult. Act like it. Your mom is a bad example of an adult. Don't act like her short answers, but tell the truth if you want. Shrug. Act like your least favorite coworker is asking you questions, or a stranger in a restaurant. What were you doing with that man last night? Hanging out. Did you have sex? My sex life isn't something I want to discuss with you. Mom, repeat yourself. Be a broken record. Do not raise your voice or sound interesting. You must be boring until she just doesn't ask anymore. Or, you can do what my brother did and just disgust her with all the very sordid details and make her regret ever asking. Mom, learn to stop asking. Commenter 2. Mom, I'm not asking your permission. I'm telling you where I will be as a courtesy. So you don't worry. If you want to know that I'm not dead in a gutter, you will stop giving me lectures. Otherwise, I will not know where I am. The choice is yours. I told my mother this at some point in my 20s. Like you, I was acting like a child, trying to get away with something. Own it. Act like an adult to be treated like one. My mother and I came to an understanding. Good luck. Commenter 3. Right now, your parents control your salary and housing. Any recommendations are futile if they retain the ability to control every aspect of your life. I'd have the first conversation with your dad. You are 27 and need to make a living wage to be able to move out. If he refuses, you need a new income commenter. 4. I didn't live home as an adult. But I did have very strict parents. I actually regret being honest with them and living up to their standards. I should have lied, and I should have snuck out. They were unreasonably strict, and it wasn't fair for them to put me in that position. If an authority figure forces you into a position where you will be shamed, neglected, or abused in some way for living an autonomous and normal life, you do not owe them honesty in any way, shape, or form. Commenter 5. I think there's an in-between here that would serve you well with your mom long-term. You can set a boundary that she frankly doesn't need to know everything, and her opinion isn't wanted or welcome in this instance. You don't have to tell her the truth, and you don't have to lie. Either you can just set the boundary that you're going to go out for the evening, you don't want to share details, and you're not interested in her feedback on it. If she tries to state her opinions, you can hold the line firmly and say, I've already said I'm not interested in your thoughts on this, I'm leaving this conversation now, and walk away. If she keeps going, I always remind myself that a conversation is only a conversation if both people are engaging. You can leave a conversation while being physically present. Throw on some headphones and read a book or something. Let her talk to the air every time. She'll quit. My mom is great at the unsolicited opinions that I frankly aren't in line with what would actually bring me joy and how I live my life. I've started telling her that she'll say something like, but insert thing doesn't sound like it'd be a good use of your time, and I'll reply with, it would bring me joy, and joy is a good use of my time. Only I get to decide what's worth my time for me. Your perception is fine for how you spend your time, but I'm going to spend mine how I want. Or, her other one was, she was stuck on wanting a real officiant for my wedding, instead of a friend or something. She even threatened to not come over at once, and I straight told her that it's not her wedding or her decision to make. But it is her decision to attend, and I can respect her choices, even if she won't respect mine. She's brought it up less aggressively a few times since, and I'm now threatening to have our dog officiate. They can in some states. And I was working my way down the list of our dogs in order of intelligence until she finally got the point and shut up. Other thing I've learned with my mom, the more she gets confrontational, the more I stay even tone and point out something isn't up for discussion with my mom at least. She can see after the fact when she's being the problem, even if she can't in the moment. It happens a lot faster when I let it be exceptionally clear she's the problem, not me, by not reacting to her. Also, I think it's gradually breaking the cycle of confrontation because it's not working for her anymore. So she's not resorting to it as often. Stories number 24. My thoughts on people calling petite grown women childlike and why it's misogynistic. So this might ruffle some feathers, but I need to get this off my chest because I've been seeing this discussion pop up again and again on social media and even in conversations around me. And honestly, the takes are starting to make my blood boil. It's about this idea that petite women, or women who don't have curvy or developed bodies, are somehow automatically childlike, or worse, that men who date them are secretly pedophiles because they look like kids. I'll start by saying this. I'm 29, 5'1", and I've always been petite. I don't have the curves that movies, TV shows, and even random internet strangers seem to think define womanhood. My chest is small, my hips are narrow, and if you only measured me against society's stereotype of a grown woman's body, I probably wouldn't fit, and, you know what? I am still an adult woman, period, end of story. But the problem is, too many people act like I'm not. And it's not just random trolls, it's co-workers joking that I look like I should still be carded at the movie theater. It's a guy I went on a date with telling me I remind him of a high schooler before laughing it off like it was a compliment. It's even other women implying that petite women like me have it easier because we supposedly get treated cuter or younger. Let me be clear, there is nothing flattering about being constantly infantilized as an adult woman. What frustrates me the most is that the entire conversation puts the blame on women's bodies rather than on the men and society who are choosing to sexualize or diminish us in these ways. When people say, men who like petite women are pedophiles, the underlying implication is that we, the women with these bodies, are the problem. That just by existing in a naturally smaller frame, we are somehow enabling or attracting these kinds of men. And that's just flat-out misogyny. Because here's the truth. Puberty doesn't give everyone the same body. Some women get taller, some don't. Some develop large breasts, others don't. Some gain curves, others stay straight-framed. There is no one template for what an adult woman should look like. To act as though there is just reinforces narrow, damaging standards of beauty and maturity. And while yes, it's true that some men do deliberately seek out petite women and try to justify it in creepy ways, that's on them. They're the ones deciding to project childlike traits onto grown women. They're the ones creating the lens through which our bodies are interpreted. It's not our fault for existing in the skin we were born with. It reminds me of my friend Emily, who is also petite. She's 30, works as an attorney, and still gets told by opposing counsel that she looks like a teenager fresh out of school. She once had a client question if she was even old enough to represent them. Do you know how demeaning that is? To work your ass off, go through years of school and experience, and still be reduced to your height or your chest size. And then there's another side effect. This constant narrative makes younger girls growing up feel like their bodies aren't good enough. If they don't develop big boobs or curvy hips, they're told they look like children, and that men won't find them attractive in the right way. If they do develop curves, they get sexualized way too early. It's lose-lose. For women, no matter what, add in the pressure from social media and beauty culture. And what happens? You get teenagers saving up for breast implants or liposuction, or women in their 20s and 30s feeling like they need to alter themselves just to prove they're adults. That's not empowerment. That's misogyny eating away at self-worth. I'm tired of people acting like it's some nuanced gray area. It's not. If a man looks at a fully grown woman and insists she's childlike just because she's petite or flat-chested, that's not an objective fact. That's him choosing to view her through a messed-up lens. That's his belief system, not her reality. And yet women are the ones who carry the burden. We're told to dress a certain way, act a certain way, look older, look more mature, just so strangers won't project their own insecurities or perversions onto us. That's not fair, at the end of the day. Petite women, tall women, curvy women, skinny women, all of us are grown women when we are adults. Our bodies don't need to meet some arbitrary checklist to validate that. And if men, or honestly, other women too, are judging us against those checklists, the issue is with their misogynistic ideas about womanhood, not with us. So please, I'm begging people, stop calling grown women childlike just because they don't match your idea of a real woman's body. Stop feeding into rhetoric that leads young girls to hate their own development. Stop framing women's bodies as problems that need fixing. If there's blame to place it where it belongs, on the people who choose to devalue and sexualize women in the first place. Because trust me, petite women like me, we're not children. We're just living in bodies that society still insists on misjudging. Update on being called childlike and how the responses changed my perspective. Hey everyone, OP here. I honestly wasn't expecting my original post to get as much traction as it did. Reading through the comments, especially from other petite women, made me feel less alone than I have in years. I wasn't exaggerating when I said this issue eats away at you over time. The solidarity was overwhelming but also kind of heartbreaking. So many women chimed in with nearly identical experiences. Being dismissed at work, mocked by family, infantilized by partners, or sexualized in weird ways by strangers. A few things have happened since I wrote that post that I wanted to share, because it's been eye-opening. Conversations with family. My younger sister, Ashley, 25, read my post after I shared it with her, and she admitted she hadn't realized how deep this ran for me. She's taller and curvier than I am, and she confessed she used to secretly feel luckier that she didn't get the "you look like a kid" comments. But then she reminded me of her own baggage, how she was sexualized at 14 because of her chest size, how adult men made creepy remarks to her while she was still in braces. We sat there at my mom's kitchen table realizing the sad truth. No matter what body type you have, patriarchy finds a way to shame you. Either you're too much, or not enough, either you look too young or you're aging poorly. It's exhausting. My coworker's reaction. This one shocked me. A coworker of mine, Jake, early 40s, made one of those offhand, "You look like a high schooler" jokes last week. Normally, I'd laugh awkwardly and move on, but this time I didn't. Told him, "You know, when you say that, it doesn't come off as funny. It comes off as dismissive. I'm almost 30. I've worked hard to get here. And when you frame me as a kid, it undermines that." To his credit, Jake actually looked embarrassed. He apologized, not in that fake, defensive way, but genuinely. He said he hadn't thought about it like that before, and it hit me that maybe a lot of people don't think. They just parrot stereotypes without realizing the harm. It doesn't excuse it, but it gave me hope that calling it out might make people rethink. Dating while petite. Since my post, I've also been back on the apps. Ugh. And let me tell you, nothing screams red flag like the guys who say, "I love petite girls, they're so cute and innocent." Innocent? Dude, I pay taxes, cuss like a sailor, and have a 401k. There is nothing innocent about me. After writing my post, I've become hyper-aware of how loaded those comments are. Some men really do fetishize petite women. But again, that's not our fault. That's them twisting their desires into something that infantilizes us. And I'm not interested in being someone's creepy kink for. The mental shift. The biggest thing that's changed for me is how I view myself. For years, I subconsciously absorbed the idea that I wasn't enough of a woman, that I was stuck somewhere between girlhood and adulthood, no matter how many candles were on my birthday cake. But now I'm starting to push back. My body isn't the problem. My height isn't the problem. My chest size isn't the problem. The problem is the lens through which society insists on seeing me. And honestly, the more I've started owning that, the lighter I feel. I've started dressing how I want instead of worrying about looking older to be taken seriously. I've started speaking up when people cross the line. I'm not perfect at it, but I'm no longer swallowing the shame like I used to. 5. The bigger picture. This isn't just about petite women. It's about how all women are shoved into boxes, judged against moving goalposts, and blamed for things that are completely out of our control. The day after my original post, Mrs. Jean, my 73-year-old neighbor who's basically my unofficial therapist, some of you may remember me posting about her before, said something that stuck with me. I was venting about how frustrating it is to constantly be dismissed. And she said, "When people can't control their own minds, they try to control yours. Don't let them." And she's right. People are going to make comments. They're going to project. They're going to infantilize, sexualize, criticize. But I don't have to accept their narrative as my truth. So, yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm still frustrated. I'm still navigating it. But thanks to the feedback here and the conversations it sparked in my real life, I feel stronger. Less like a victim of other people's perceptions, and more like someone who has the right to say, "I am a grown woman. Period. You don't get to define me otherwise." If even one other woman reading this feels a little less alone, then putting myself out there was worth it. Second update, finding my voice, and a little peace. Hey Reddit, OP here again. I didn't think I'd be writing a second update, but life has a funny way of handing you material once you start paying attention. Since my last post, a few things have happened that really pushed this conversation, not just with strangers online, but with my family, co-workers, and even myself. Family dinner that turned into a debate. A couple of weeks ago, I was at Sunday dinner with my parents, Sister Ashley, and my Aunt Carol. Out of nowhere, Carol made one of those, "You'll be glad when you're older because you'll still look like you're 20, comments. Normally, I'd force a smile and change the subject, but this time, I calmly said, "Carol, I know you mean that as a compliment, but it actually makes me feel dismissed. I'm 27, and being told I look like a kid isn't flattering. It undermines my adulthood." The table went quiet for a second, and I braced for awkwardness, but my mom surprised me. She nodded and said, "I never thought about it like that. I guess people just don't realize how words land." Carol was a little defensive at first. Well, I didn't mean it that way. But later she pulled me aside and admitted she'd never considered how infantilizing it could sound. She even said she'd think twice before making those kinds of remarks again. It wasn't a perfect win, but it felt like progress. Standing my ground at work. Remember Jake, my co-worker who used to joke about me looking like a high schooler? Well, a similar situation came up during a client meeting. A client laughed and said, "You're the project manager. You look like you should be at prom." I looked him dead in the eye and replied, "I assure you, I'm qualified. I've been in this industry for years, and my team trusts me to lead." The room went silent for a beat. Then the client awkwardly chuckled and moved on. Later, my boss actually pulled me aside and said he admired the way I handled it. Firm but professional. That moment was huge for me. For once, I didn't shrink. I claimed my space to dating update, a pleasant surprise. So after ranting about creepy comments on dating apps, I matched with someone who surprised me. Let's call him Daniel. On our first date, I actually tested the waters and asked if he ever dated petite women before his answer. Yeah, but I don't really think about body types like that. I'm more into how someone carries themselves. It was such a relief to hear someone who wasn't projecting weird narratives onto my body. We've been out a few times now, and while it's too early to know where it'll go, it feels nice to be seen as a whole person first. Therapy breakthrough. After my first update, a lot of people suggested therapy. I'd been putting it off, thinking, hey, it's not that big of a deal. But I finally booked a session. In just a few weeks, my therapist helped me connect the dots. My tendency to stay quiet when people infantilize me wasn't just about being petite. It was about a lifetime of being told to be polite, don't make waves, and laugh it off, she said. Something that hit me. Every time you stay silent, you reinforce their version of you. Every time you speak up, you reinforce your own. That line has been echoing in my head, and I'm practicing it slowly, but surely. Mrs. Jean's latest wisdom. You all loved Mrs. Jean in the last update. So here's her cameo. Last week, we were having coffee, and I told her about feeling nervous to speak up at work. She leaned back, smiled, and said, "People will always try to write your story for you. Don't let them hold the pen, that woman, I swear. She should have her own TED Talk where I am now. I'm not going to lie. It still stings when people make those, 'you look like a kid' comments. It probably always will, but I've stopped internalizing them as truth. Now when someone says it, I remind myself, that's their lens, not my identity. I feel stronger than I did when I first posted. Not because the world suddenly changed, but because I started changing the way I respond to it. So to all the petite women who reached out and said, I feel this in my bones. You're not alone, and you don't have to accept being belittled just because society hasn't learned how to shut up about women's bodies. Final update, closing the chapter. Hi Reddit. It's been several months since I last wrote, and I wanted to leave one last update before I step away from this thread. When I first posted, I was frustrated, hurt, and honestly exhausted from carrying around the weight of other people's words. Now I feel like I've come out the other side with a perspective I didn't think I'd ever have. The family resolution. Remember how tense things got with my Aunt Carol and all the subtle comments from family? Well, a couple of weeks ago, we had a big family barbecue. I braced myself for the usual comments, the "you look so young" jokes, the comparisons to my cousins who look more like women. But instead, something unexpected happened when one of my distant cousins made a snide remark about how I still look like a teenager. My mom, yes, my mom, jumped in before I even had to. She said, she's 27 years old, she's a professional, and she deserves to be treated like an adult. Stop talking about her body. I don't think I've ever felt more seen by my mom in my life. That moment was huge. It told me that the small boundaries I've been setting really did ripple outward. People notice when you start advocating for yourself. And sometimes they even start advocating with you too. The work win, that big client I had defended myself against months back. Well, I ended up leading their entire project last month. We wrapped it up successfully. And during the final meeting, that same client shook my hand and said, I underestimated you at first, but you've proven me wrong. I didn't say it out loud, but internally I thought, damn right you did. That project not only boosted my confidence, but it also got me noticed at work. My boss recently promoted me into a role with more leadership. And the best part? The promotion had nothing to do with how I look. It was about what I delivered. Personal life, Daniel and I are still seeing each other, and things have gotten surprisingly serious. I was nervous at first, worried that eventually the same old comments about my body would creep into the relationship, but instead, he's been nothing but respectful. One night, I actually told him about this whole Reddit thread. The posts, the comments, the updates. He listened quietly and then said, "I don't see you as small or young, I see you as strong. That's the first thing I noticed about you, reader." I nearly cried for Mrs. Jean's final lesson. And of course I can't leave this story without one last nugget of wisdom from Mrs. Jean. We were sitting on her porch last week, sipping lemonade, when I told her how far I'd come since my first post. She chuckled and said, "Darlin', the world's always gonna try to put you in a box. The trick is remembering you're the only one who gets to live in it. So decorate it the way you damn well please." That line sealed it for me. Final thoughts. Here's where I'm at. I've stopped letting other people's words define my womanhood. I've started speaking up, not just for myself, but so others around me can learn. I'm learning that respect often starts with how you respect yourself. I'm not saying it's easy. Some days, the old insecurities creep back, but I no longer carry them like a weight I can't set down. I've learned to call them what they are: projections, not reality. And for anyone reading this who's been told you're too small, too flat, too whatever to count as a real woman, please hear me when I say, you are enough, as you are, full stop. This will be my last update, but I wanted to thank everyone who commented, messaged, or even just read along. You gave me courage when I needed it most. And now, I get to carry that forward. So I'll leave you with Mrs. Jean's wisdom. Decorate your own damn box. Stories number 25. My first attempt at dating after years of hiding ended with a girl saying, "You know," to my face. Hey Reddit. I'm not usually the type to post about personal stuff online, but this one has been eating me alive for days. I keep replaying it in my head, and I think writing it out might help me process. For context, I'm 21, living in the Midwest. I survived a fire when I was 13. It left me with visible burn scars on my face, neck, and parts of my arms. I've gone through more surgeries than I can count. Some were reconstructive, some were skin grafts, and some were just maintenance. At this point, I look healed, but there's no hiding the scars. When I was younger, I was outgoing. I had no problem walking up to girls, joking around, even going to dances in high school. But after the accident, I shut down completely. Middle school and early high school were brutal enough without looking different. After the fire, I basically went silent socially. For the last few years, I avoided dating entirely. Whenever friends asked, I brushed it off with, "Not interested," or "I'm focusing on other things." Truthfully, I was terrified. Terrified of rejection. Terrified of pity. Terrified of hearing out loud the exact thing I was already afraid people thought when they looked at me. The night out, so, fast forward to last week. A few of my friends, Ethan, Marcus, and Ryan, invited me to go to this Latin dance night at a local bar. They all had their girlfriends with them. I almost said no because, let's be real, nothing screams third wheel like being the only single guy in a group of couples. But something in me thought, you've been hiding long enough. Just go. The night was actually fun at first. The music was loud, the floor was packed, and everyone was laughing and drinking. For 2 hours I just stuck to the sidelines, sipping my soda and telling myself I was there to observe. My friends were all out there dancing with their girlfriends, and they kept trying to wave me over, but I kept shaking my head. Finally, Ethan came over during a break and said, "Dude, you've got to at least ask someone. What's the worst that can happen? She says no? Big deal." It felt like one of those moments where life was daring me. So I told myself, fine. Just do it once. The rejection. I scanned the room and saw a woman, maybe around my age, maybe a little older, standing by the wall with a drink in her hand. She wasn't with anyone at the moment, so I walked over. I smiled, or at least tried to. Smiling feels weird when your skin is tight from scar tissue, and said, "Hey, are you here with someone?" She looked up, shrugged, and said, "Just some friends, but they're dancing right now." I nodded and asked, "Cool, do you want to dance?" She looked me up and down, and then her whole expression changed. Her nose wrinkled, her lips curled like she smelled something bad. And then she said, verbatim, No, not with you. Have you seen your face?" I swear, time froze. My stomach dropped. Like I'd just been punched. All the witty comebacks I'd rehearsed in my head over the years, gone. All the times I thought I'd be ready for rejection, lies. All I managed to get out was, "Oh, okay, have a good night." Then I walked away. Aftermath, I didn't even tell my friends what happened. I just slipped out after about 20 minutes and texted them later saying I wasn't feeling well. That moment has been replaying in my head on a loop ever since. Her face, her tone. The way she emphasized you, I keep asking myself, what should I have said? Should I have defended myself? Should I have called her out for being cruel? Instead, I feel like I walked away looking pathetic, like I proved her right. The worst part is, I know one rejection isn't the end of the world. I know I can't let one mean person ruin my chances at finding love. But it feels so damn personal. The spiral. Here's the thing about scars. You can tell yourself, they don't define me, 1,000 times. You can even believe it when you're alone, hyping yourself up in the mirror. But the second someone confirms your worst fear out loud, it's like a dagger. Her words validated every dark thought I've had for the past 8 years. That I'll never be attractive. That no woman will ever see me as more than damaged. That I'll always be the guy. And yet some tiny voice in my head keeps saying, you survived a fire. You can survive this. What I wish I'd said, I've replayed it 100 times. If I could do it over, I'd look her dead in the eye and say something like, "Thanks for showing me your character before I wasted a dance." Or maybe, "Better to have scars than be ugly on the inside." Something sharp, something that made her realize she wasn't just rejecting me. She was being cruel for no reason. Instead, I walked away. Maybe that's okay. Maybe silence was the stronger move. But it doesn't feel like it. Why I'm posting. So Reddit, what do you do in a situation like that? How do you respond to cruelty without letting it break you? How do you keep putting yourself out there after someone basically says you're too ugly to even dance with? I know dating is rejection, everyone goes through it. But this wasn't just, "Sorry, not interested." This was no. This was, "Have you seen your face?" Part of me wants to give up again. Crawl back into my hole and stop trying. But another part of me, the part that dragged me out to that dance floor, wants to fight, wants to keep trying, wants to believe there's someone out there who won't flinch at my scars. I don't know. Maybe this is just a rant, but if anyone has advice, or hell, if anyone's been through something similar, I'd love to hear how you handled it. Thanks for reading. Update. My first attempt at dating after years of hiding ended with a girl saying, to my face. Hey everyone. First off, I just want to thank you all for the overwhelming support on my original post. I didn't expect so many people to respond, let alone with kindness, advice, and even some tough love. I read through hundreds of comments, and honestly, it helped me more than I can explain. For the first time in a long time, I felt seen in a way that wasn't about my scars. So here's what's happened since then. Talking to my friends, I finally came clean to my friends about what happened that night. At first, I thought I'd just bury it, but keeping it to myself was eating me alive. One night, when Ethan and Marcus were hanging out at my place, I just blurted it out. I told them word for word what she said, how I froze, how I walked away. They both went dead silent. Then Ethan just muttered, "What the actual fuck?" Marcus got pissed, like visibly pissed. He said if he had known, he would have said something to her right then and there. I don't know if that would have helped, but hearing my friends react like that, like they couldn't believe anyone would say something so cruel, it helped me see that maybe the problem really was her, not me. Therapy and scars. Another big thing. A few people in the comments suggested therapy. I've been in and out of therapy over the years since the accident, mostly for trauma and PTSD, but I kind of let it lapse once I hit 18. After reading those comments, I realized maybe it was time to go back. I booked a session with a counselor I saw a few years ago. We talked a lot about body image, about shame, about how I've been letting fear dictate my choices. She asked me something that stuck. What evidence do you have that no one will ever want you, besides this one girl? And the answer was, none. I've been avoiding putting myself out there. So of course I don't have evidence either way. I'm letting my worst fear run my entire dating life. The replay. I told her I kept replaying that moment in my head, wishing I'd said something clever. She pointed out something I hadn't thought of. By not stooping to her level, I actually came out looking better. Her cruelty spoke volumes about her character. My walking away quietly wasn't weakness. It was strength that shifted something in me. I'm still hurt. I won't lie, but instead of feeling like a victim of her words, I'm starting to see it as a moment that revealed more about her ugliness than my scars. The dance floor. Round 2. Here's the part I'm kind of proud of. Last weekend, the same group of friends went back to that dance bar. I almost said no because I was afraid of a repeat. But then I thought about all of your comments telling me not to give one stranger that much power, so I went. And this time, after about an hour, I worked up the nerve to ask another woman to dance. My heart was pounding out of my chest. She looked me in the eye, smiled, and said, "Sure." We danced one song. She was kind. She laughed when I messed up a step, and she thanked me afterward. That's it. Nothing romantic, nothing magical. But you know what? It didn't end with you, no. And that's all I needed. Final thoughts. For now, I don't want to make it sound like everything's magically fixed. I still struggle with mirrors some days. I still hear that girl's words in my head, but I also hear all of you now. And I hear my friends. And I hear my therapist reminding me that rejection is universal. And scars don't erase my worth. I survived a fire. I can survive this dating world too. So thank you, Reddit, for real. Stories number 26. Aita for not inviting my sister to my wedding because she always makes everything about herself. So I 29F am getting married next fall. I'm super excited. And planning has been stressful, but fun. I love hosting and party planning. So having a huge, well-planned wedding means a lot to me. The issue is my sister, 31F. For as long as I can remember, she's had a really awful habit of hijacking big events. For example, at my college graduation, she announced her engagement during the dinner. She dated the guy for 2 months and they broke up a week after my graduation. At my fiancé's birthday last year, she revealed she was pregnant. She later miscarried, which was awful, but the timing of the announcement was still really inappropriate. The final straw was at my parents' anniversary party, when she got really drunk and started laughing. At my parents' speech, when the speech was clearly not at a laughing part. Her apology was half-assed at best and definitely in that popular girl ops sorry way, if that makes sense. This is part of the problem. A lot of what she does is hard to explain. It's all in the mannerisms and tone, but I know what she's doing. I feel it in my soul. I love her, but it's become a pattern. Every milestone turns into her stage. When it came to my wedding, I just couldn't handle the idea of something I've waited for my whole life for being overshadowed. Especially since hosing and party planning means so much to me. My fiancé agrees. After a lot of guilt and back and forth, I decided not to invite her. I told her privately, and she lost it. She called me selfish, said I was tearing the family apart, and that she'd never forgive me. Here's the thing, I know she won't, but I don't know if I care. My parents are furious at me and say I'm being vindictive and childish. But again, I don't know if I care. I feel awful, but I also feel relieved. Like this is the only way to protect the day. A part of me knows I am being an asshole, but am I being too big of an asshole? Please give your opinions. I need to know if I'm being ridiculous. Stories number 27. Just had the most inadvertently charming and funny phone call with a kid. My kid S is in 7th grade and splits time between my house and their dad's house. Mostly they're here. Anyway, this unknown number calls the landline, which I always pick up because really no one has that number except the people we give it to. This kid 13 asks, "Is this S's parent?" I say yes. S told him to call if he needed help with a group project, and he does. I say, "Sorry, S is at their dad's house. Let me get your name and number and I'll have them call you." So he says, "My name is Michael John, but for some reason everyone at school calls me MJ." Name changed for privacy reasons, but you get the point. And I can't even explain how hilarious it was, and hard it was not to laugh. What a mysterious nickname! Why would everyone call you MJ? Let's get to the bottom of this. I get his number down, check that I have it right, and am ready to end the phone call. He says, "What do I call you? Mrs. X's last name?" I said, "No, you can call me my first name." To which he replies, "Okay, thank you my first name. I hope you have a great day." The whole thing took maybe 90 seconds, but it left me with a smile. Who says the younger generation doesn't know how to make phone calls? Stories number 28. My ex is trying to erase me from my son's life and rewrite our history. I don't even know where to start. I was a stay-at-home mom for 13 years. At my husband's request, raising our son while he worked. I gave up my own education and career to make sure our child was cared for every single day. Now we're divorcing, and suddenly I'm being painted as if I abandoned my son, like I was never there. He and his side are saying I had nothing to do with my child's upbringing. That's a complete lie. I was there for everything. Teething, crawling, walking, potty training twice, library programs, arts and crafts, chalk drawings, painting to help his motor skills. I have years of photos and videos showing I was his daily caregiver. On top of that, I'm black and my son is biracial. His father is white, and my son has no other biracial or black figures in his life besides me. By cutting me out, they're not only trying to erase me as a parent, but also trying to erase a part of my son's identity. It feels like they're trying to whitewash him, and it's breaking my heart. I've been through so many lawyers and dead ends trying to get help in Iowa, and I feel like the system is stacked against me. I even spent 9 days in jail just for being in the same home as my son, because my ex uses the police as a weapon. I'm exhausted, I'm scared, and I'm furious. I don't know what else to do, but I also know I can't stop fighting. For my son, if anyone here has been through something like this, custody battles, being erased, being lied about in court, or raising a biracial child in a situation like this, I would love advice, solidarity, or just to know I'm not alone. Stories number 29. My adult son moved back home and is treating our house like a hotel. Never thought I'd be writing on Reddit about family drama, but here we are. I'm 52F. My husband Mark is 55M, and our son Jason is 24. Jason moved back into our home about 6 months ago after he lost his job, and at first, it felt like the right thing to do. He was struggling financially, seemed overwhelmed, and Mark and I agreed that giving him a safe landing spot was the least we could do as his parents. But now, it feels like I'm running a free Airbnb, except without the benefit of money or good reviews. When Jason first moved back, I told myself it was temporary. He said he just needed a couple of months to regroup, get back on his feet, and then he'd be applying to jobs left and right. I stocked the pantry with his favorite snacks, changed the sheets in the guest room, which used to be his old bedroom, and even helped him move his boxes back in. The first couple of weeks were fine. He seemed grateful, a little embarrassed, but polite. He'd come down for dinner, thank me for cooking, and promise he was sending out resumes tomorrow. But tomorrow has turned into half a year. Jason's routine is chaotic, to say the least. He sleeps until noon most days. Sometimes later he leaves dirty dishes in the sink like they'll magically clean themselves. He'll take entire pints of ice cream from the freezer, eat them in one sitting, and leave the empty carton on the coffee table. He uses our Wi-Fi non-stop for online gaming, yelling into his headset at 2 or 3 a.m. while Mark and I are trying to sleep. His friends are loud through the headset, but sometimes he actually brings them over without asking. And suddenly there are 3 young men in their mid-20s sprawled across my living room at midnight, raiding the fridge like it's a college dorm. I wouldn't mind if he were trying, but from where I stand, he isn't contributing to groceries, utilities, or even cleaning up after himself. I can't remember the last time he picked up a broom or helped with laundry. He's going through shampoo and toothpaste faster than I can buy it. And I know he's using our Amazon account for random purchases. When I asked him if he was applying for jobs, he just shrugged and said, "The market sucks right now, I'll figure it out." The kicker? He brings dates over, without asking. I've woken up twice to find strange women in my kitchen, clearly having slept over. One of them looked mortified, apologized, and left quickly. The other one cheerfully made herself coffee and asked me where. We kept the sugar. I don't even know what to say in those moments. I don't want to embarrass him, but I feel like he's completely forgotten. He's living in our home, not his own apartment, Mark, and I have started to argue about it. He agrees. Jason is being inconsiderate, but Mark's approach is more laid back. He keeps saying, "He's our son. He's struggling. We can't just throw him out." When I suggested giving Jason a deadline, Mark said, "That'll just push him away," but I'm starting to feel resentful. Jason is an adult, a 24-year-old man, and he's treating us like hotel staff. I make dinner, he eats, then he vanishes upstairs with his headphones on. I clean, he creates more mess. I try to talk to him about contributing, and he acts like I'm nagging. The other day I asked him to at least unload the dishwasher, and he said, "I'll do it later." Hours went by. The dishes sat there. Eventually I caved and did it myself because I couldn't stand looking at them anymore. When I mentioned that to Mark, he just sighed and said, "Pick your battles. But how many battles am I supposed to ignore? I love my son. I don't want to kick him out when he's already feeling lost, but I also can't keep living like this. My home doesn't feel like mine anymore. It feels like Jason's bachelor pad, and I'm just the cleaning lady who happens to live here. So here's where I'm stuck. Do I give him an ultimatum? Shape up or move out? Do I set a hard deadline like 3 months and tell him he needs to find his own place by then? Do I start charging him rent even if he's barely working? Or do I just suck it up and hope he figures it out? Mark keeps saying he'll grow out of it, but Jason is 24, not 14. If he doesn't start learning accountability now, when will he? I don't want to damage our relationship. I don't want him to feel unloved or unwanted, but at the same time, I'm exhausted. I've raised my kids, I've done my part, and this house is supposed to be a place where I can finally breathe. Right now, I feel like I'm suffocating. Any advice? Has anyone else been through this? How do you support an adult child without enabling them? Stories number 30. Costco don't cave in. On early executive member hours. Due to Karens, we love the early hour entrance for executive members, but there is a lot of whining and crying in media about it, and we are afraid Costco may cave in. Yesterday at Costco, we saw and heard an angry male Karen screaming at the top of his lungs about not being let in because he had a regular membership. He threatened the greeters by calling the police, and they told him that was his right. The police refused to come, which made him even angrier. We watched as he got in his car and roared off. This is a great benefit for executive members. No wait at pharmacy, plenty of room to shop. The stress level was almost non-existent. It was fun for us to take our time, not being in anyone's way, and best part, we did not have to hurry. Oh yeah, the food court was nearly empty. We made it a point to thank the manager so she could give our feedback to upper management. For all you whiners, upgrade to executive membership. It pays for itself every year as it does for us, and we only go once a month.